Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome here to Concord, North Carolina. The Charlotte Motor Speedway plays host to race number 14 of Season 2 of the Clutch Drop Cup Series, officially halfway through the regular season. These drivers now prepare for the longest race that they will run in terms of length, as they prepare for 260 laps under the lights here at this 1.5-mile D-shaped speedway. Out of the car of Coda last week, back into the booth this week, Scott Rankin joins me. And Scott, it's an interesting race coming into tonight because Charlotte last year played such a pivotal role in the championship in the season finale, but add on 20 laps, and now you've got an opportunity for a driver to head into the second half of the regular season, maybe clinching a playoff spot.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that at length over the last couple of weeks as well. Obviously, not directly last week. Obviously, other driving duties took me out of the booth last week. But yeah, look, there's a few drivers that lock themselves in. There's a few drivers that are feeling pretty good about themselves at this point in time. But there's still a lot of question marks hanging over a few of the drivers. Let's talk about SRD and their dominance. Was it Luminary that were dominating the last season? And things have changed completely and utterly around, and Luminary Luminary aren't even a team anymore, are they?
No, as far as I'm aware, Luminary Racing dissolved at the end of Season 2, and to your point, the defending winner of this race, if we go back to last year's season finale, Bronson Stafford, the defending champion of the series, not in the field tonight, so we're guaranteed, at least in the past 2 seasons, a new Charlotte winner.
Yep, and more than likely, it's looking like a new team's champion in the SRD Motorsports guys. They've driven phenomenally. We talked to Alex Link. I talked to Alex Link at length last week after the race as well, and he said, yeah, look, I mean, you guys are right. I'm putting myself in some really, really good positions in terms of pace and ability, and then I'm making myself drive through the field multiple times. So I talked about it. I talked to him about the mentality about it at length last week, and this time out, I think he's going to go for a little bit of a different approach. I think he's just going to calm it down a little bit, and like you said, longest race of the season, it's green, and I think the guy in the field with the most to prove tonight is probably Alex.
Link's going to be rolling off from the 13th position. We only had, I believe, a total of 11 drivers take time in qualifying. One of the drivers that didn't take time that was missing from our grid is the 3 of Braxton DeWeese, who the last 2 times out has gone to victory lane. Of course, 2 weeks ago at Dover and last week at Circuit of the Americas.
Yeah, it was really, really cool to actually see him do so well at Coda as well. It was a phenomenal drive. Braxton, to be fair to him, he's just gotten out the last 2 weeks. He's actually been quite busy, and he's been running a lot in alternative leagues, and we've just finished that broadcast of the IRL league. So, and he's shown again and again and again that he's good. He doesn't care. He's going to start way back in the pack. Not an issue. Braxton DeWeese, he's going to put that car all the way towards the front.
Started 12th, has already picked up 4 spots since the drop of the green flag, now up to 8th as Alonso Chicano, who started on the outside of the front row, alongside of 2-time winner Oscar Jensen. He's led the last couple of laps here, was getting the run on the top side, but Jensen in that Stars and Stripes 46 battling back. He wants to lead his first lap of the night.
Yeah, I mean, Oscar Jensen's had, he's had his win, I believe, already. So is Chicano. So there's a few guys here that are now qualified for playoff contention, and they're just trying to grab those extra points, put them really up and clear ahead of the pack, and in terms of going into the playoffs with every single advantage that they can possibly do. And like you said, long race tonight. Like, this race was probably a really good opportunity to sit down and shake out who is going to be of note at the back end, because Charlotte's one of those really good tracks to sort of test a couple different things, how the car handles, etc., but also driving talent, tire, life. I mean, who hasn't had a crack at the Coke 600 this week in terms of official races? I can guarantee you a lot of the guys in this field will have done that. A lot of these guys will have extended lap run data, and they'll know what they need to do to keep these tires under them.
Looks like one driver either missed the start or just came to pit road, and that is our winner back from, I believe it was Martinsville, Keenan Massey. He is now 2 laps down and currently being scored out of the race. Might have been connection problems. We'll follow up on that. Right now he's being scored in the 17th position.
He's manually put the car back in the garage, so I believe he had an end-of-line penalty for some reason. I believe the whole purpose of him showing up tonight was maybe to serve that penalty, so that's clear out of him before next week, potentially, which is smart. That is very, very smart. If you know that you can't do an entire race, that's very smart. Come out, get your penalty cleared off, restart, reset again for next week. So, look, I mean, could be a few things going on there, but yeah, like you said, Keenan Massey, he is locked into playoff contention. It would have been interesting to see him show his wares and see what he could do, but look, I mean, sometimes life gets in the way.
Looking here at second place, Jacob Grant in the 18 to the inside of the 10 of Alonso Chicano. Now, Jacob Grant is a driver who is not, at this point in time, locked into the playoffs. He is high enough in the standings where he could point his way in, but for Jacob Grant, he's seen his High Five Racing teammate in Braxton DeWeese go to victory lane 3 times this season, and he's thinking, when's it going to be my turn? Maybe tonight's the night.
Yeah, maybe tonight's the night. I mean, Jake's really, he's aggressive. There's no way past that, and it works for him. Like, we talk about it. I'm a passive style driver. I don't know what kind of driver you are, Steph, but I'm a very passive style driver. I'm all about the self-preservation. Sending it, I mean, the better that I've become, being a little bit more aggressive starts to, you got to be a good driver. I think sometimes Jacob definitely drives a little bit beyond his capabilities because he's just pushing the limits, which is good. If you're going to be a driver and you want to be a competitive driver, you have to drive, sometimes you have to drive above and beyond your abilities. Sometimes it sticks, sometimes you learn something new, sometimes you come back even stronger, and sometimes, most of the time in fact, it'll go completely and horribly, utterly wrong. And look, to be fair, Jacob Grant has shown flashes of brilliance so far this season. I need him to convert if he's going to be, in my mind, for championship contention.
We're looking there at Braxton DeWeese in the 3 car, now up 5 spots since the drop of the green flag to 7th place. Looking ahead to Dylan Stipe. Mentioned the fact that the defending winner from Charlotte last season, the defending champion Bronson Stafford, not in the field. The highest finisher from the Charlotte race last season would be Dylan Stipe, finished runner-up, and right now has that 4 car in the 6th position. Another driver that is yet to find victory lane this year.
Yeah, you've also got to mention that last season he got himself into the playoffs by points alone, so he didn't have that win, but he still was consistent. Dylan Stipe is one of those drivers, for my mind. You don't ever see him really kind of running away with a race. You don't see him, boiling through and showing just exactly what he's capable of. But at the same time, how often do you see Dylan Stipe having a terrible race? He doesn't. He really, really doesn't. It's down to the fact that he is so consistent. Is tonight his night? You mentioned the last time that we were out at Charlotte, he had a phenomenal drive, and I'm sure that he's banked up all of that time, all of that experience to see what he can bring out this week.
And Dylan Stipe is the 3rd highest driver in the point standings right now that has not found victory lane, behind Mike Tellier and David Durand. Durand right now up in the top 5 currently in that 4th position. And back to your point there about Dylan Stipe. Yeah, pointed his way into the playoffs, advanced into the Final 4 because he got a win during the 2nd round of the playoffs at Talladega Super Speedway. That put him in contention for the championship the following week at Charlotte in the season finale. A couple of drivers back here that are starting to make some forward progress. How about Jeremy Boucher there in the 73? Obviously, on Memorial Day weekend, you're going to see a lot of drivers out here with the red, white, and blue or military-themed machines, and you can see that very familiar Army green on that Toyota Camry. But Jeremy Boucher, we saw him catch fire at the beginning of the season. Went to victory lane multiple times. I'm not saying that his fire has tapered off, but we just haven't quite seen the same performance in the last couple of weeks that we saw maybe in the first 5 or 6 weeks of the season.
I mean, if you're talking like, I wouldn't say that it's his fire has tapered off or he's burnt out. I think he's been incredibly unlucky. He's definitely been there and he's been in the running for race wins and overall wins multiple times, and he just hasn't had things fall his way. As is racing, he's ended up in accidents sometimes, and all of a sudden he's completely and utterly out of contention. So he's definitely been maybe not the standout driver since that very early stages of the championship, but he hasn't been far off the boil either. He's still right there. And look, I mean, all credit to the guy. I think maybe potentially he is trying a few things. We talked about this, I think, a few weeks as well, whereby once you're locked into those playoffs, that all of a sudden your strategy for the rest of the season starts to change a bit. You test the waters a little bit. You're comfortable with tweaking your setup. You're comfortable with trying a few things. Basically, what you're trying to do is sometimes you want to come out to the track and you want to have a setup that is completely off the pace at the start of the race. The whole goal being train yourself to tune it up throughout the race. Maybe that's what his goal is. Maybe that he's trying to force himself to find pace in the middle of the race. Who knows? We don't have that insider information.
And here's the thing, too. If you go back and look at the two wins that Jeremy Bushi had coming into tonight, both of them were at mile-and-a-half tracks. The most recent one at a D-shaped mile-and-a-half of Atlanta Motor Speedway. Obviously, that was during daytime conditions, nighttime conditions here at Charlotte, but obviously he's very good at the mile-and-a-half tracks, and we may see him get his mojo back as he's trying to get his third win on the season. Near contact there for the lead as Jacob Grant took a look on Oscar Jensen, but couldn't do it out of turn 4.
Don't forget that the SRD guys and Jacob Grant have got history as well. They've rubbed panels. I think it was Bushi and Jacob Grant actually going back to Martinsville that got together multiple times. Grant was a fireball that night. He was not settled. I mean, the tempers flare at short tracks, but I think his was certainly burning the brightest. And ultimately, what I've wanted to see from him in response has been a more consistent performance, a more, not necessarily out and out stand out performance, but I've just wanted to see him temper his aggression just a little bit. I think he's got a good chance tonight.
And he is at least off of turn 2, going to edge ahead of Oscar Jensen. Jensen going to battle back here through 3 and 4, but we'll see if the inside line might give Grant the advantage off the corner to lead this lap. Almost dead even between these two coming down to the start-finish line. But looks like Grant might have just barely led that lap. I think he did. They'll continue this side-by-side battle into turn 1. Grant coming into this race 8th in the overall point standings right now.
Jacob Grant led that lap by 0.004 of a second. So obviously Oscar Jensen's... I mean, this is a pretty typical drive from Oscar Jensen. Goes out hard and fast early and, tries to build that margin, build that buffer, and then worries about tire conservation in the mid to latter portions of the run. Like, he's had clean air here now, and this is the first time he's going to be running in dirty air. So we'll have to see how he adapts. He's definitely started coming back to the pack a little bit. So there's a few things to sort of take away from this.
Yeah, right now we're looking at the battle for third place. Oscar Jensen, a 2-time winner this season, winning the Bristol Dirt Race earlier on this year, and then followed it up with a mile-and-a-half win of his own at Kansas Speedway.
Yeah, those SRD guys have just completely and utterly dominated the mile-and-a-halves from my liking. So something to do with the way that their setups are done is just really, really good. So, look, all power to them. What I'm actually really, really curious about is have a look at the way that as soon as Jacob Grant got around Oscar Jensen, he's struggling in that dirty air. The car is definitely not performing the way that he wants it to. So Jacob Grant, look, all power to him, man. Got to the lead. He had to fight for it. He got it there, and now he's just starting to drive away a little bit.
That's the interesting thing about Charlotte, too. A lot of times, based off of your starting track position, will be how you base your setup. A lot of drivers, if they're going to be starting up towards the front, they'll trim their car out to have it be as aerodynamically sound as possible and try and open up a gap back to their competition. But if you qualify mid-pack or rear of the field, you want to have a car that's going to have a lot of stability because you know there's going to be a lot of air moving around in your attempt to make passes and passes being made on you.
I mean, ultimately, I wouldn't be going too far because you're going to find yourself. It is unlikely that you're going to you're going to lead every single lap of the race, right? So at some stage, you're going to find yourself mired back in traffic. So you need to make sure that you do have a car that handles both situations well, and when it does get the clear air, it can run away. Some guys will just go for that car that's going to handle well in traffic. Why? They're not necessarily saying I'm always going to be in traffic, but what they're trying to do is go, okay, I'm going to save enough of the tire during this period that I'm in the traffic that if I ever do find myself out in front, I should just be able to run away because I've looked after my my car and everything about it for that phase of the race. I mean, right now, Jacob's he's just done a blinding job in terms of his setup. He's done a really phenomenal job. But having said that, Oscar Jensen isn't coming back to the field. Everyone else is running their own race, running their own lines, just trying to keep things consistent. They just cannot match him. You know, he's still stretching his legs back to them.
And that's the gap you saw there down the back straightaway from Jensen back to the third place battle. Jeremy Boucher looks back and sees former winner from Darlington, Justin Belmonte. Belmonte, of course, we talked to him a couple of weeks ago, and he said now he's got that win in the bank. His goal is to go out there. If he can get some more trips to victory lane before regular season's end, that's great, but he's now got his eyes on that regular season championship, those big points paying bonus points that would take place for him in the first round of the playoffs, and had a nice run there to the outside of Jeremy Boucher out of turn 2. We'll try and carry that momentum into turn 3. Now, this is the second of 2 races that we were doing here tonight, kind of back-to-back broadcasts. Braxton DeWeese and Caleb Smith were a part of the previous broadcast for Adrenaline Racing, iRacing League, and Braxton DeWeese, when we talked to him post-race, his runner-up finish in that Dover race, he was a little bit frustrated. And, I mean, how difficult is it when you're doing back-to-back events and you have that disappointment in the first race to just put that out of your mind, focus on the fact that this is a different series, a different league, a different track, not have that nagging at you and come into this race thinking, well, because I didn't exactly have the performance I wanted a couple of hours ago, I got to go out here and I got to get some redemption.
Oh, look, I mean, for Braxton, he's got an opportunity here to settle into this race. We've got the stage breaks, so the fields are going to get condensed, you know, down again. He's still got a championship to fight for, so he does need to make sure that he's trying to confirm himself some stage points as well, so there's that to contend with, meaning that you can't have ridiculously horrid, early start to the race. He still does need to come out here, but I think his focus right now will be on that long run. Let's figure out what this car's doing. Let's figure out how we can get it to point a little bit better. Let's see how we can get this drive coming off of the corner. That'll be his focus, you know, in terms of the track conditions and the way everything's developed. Yeah, look, he's disappointed. He's upset with the way things ran in that first race, but they're completely two different, you know, Dover to Charlotte, they're different races. They're completely different racetracks, and they create a different style of racing. He will still need to, the one thing that's consistent between the two of them is definitely looking after the tires, so that'll be first and foremost on his mind, and the thing to be aware of is that they have been 2 longer format races as well, so they're not short, sweet, and snappy and over and done with. Like, he's been in the chair now for what, 2 hours, 2.5 hours?
Yeah, thereabouts. Ran 200 laps at Dover just about an hour and a half ago, and now settling in for 260 laps here tonight. You mentioned about the fact that this race being split into the 3 stages. These drivers racing till the conclusion of lap 70 for stage 1, then another 70 lapper for stage 2, then they'll be turned loose for 120 laps to reach the conclusion of this race. And based off of the fact that this is going to be an endurance race for a number of these drivers, obviously based off their setups, we're going to be seeing comers and goers on these long green flag runs. Drivers right now that have really been moving their way through the field. Justin Belmonte about to pick up what would be his 7th spot since the drop of the green flag if he can complete this pass on Oscar Jensen. We talked about Braxton DeWeese's march to the front. He's picked up 7 spots, but a couple of drivers that seem to be struggling. Alonso Chicano, who started up towards the front of the field on the outside the front row. He's lost 6 spots, 7 spots lost by Derek Schilling, and Brandon King was actually dropping through the field, but now he's kind of worked his way back up to where he started in 7th place. So apparently he's been able to find something in the last couple of laps.
It could have just been, you know, really, really conservatively driving. Something to keep an eye on now, actually, is Belmonte's gotten around Oscar Jensen, and then Boucher's making his way past as well. So Jensen obviously going for the short run pace at this stage. He was trying to create that margin. He did create enough of a margin, but, you know, now he's starting to struggle. Now he's starting to suffer. It could be just the way that he prefers the car to handle. You know, maybe he didn't like a car that went for a longer run as well. So he's got some tuning to do, and he's, you know, he's just got to run his own race. Everyone's got to settle in right now. But the fact that Braxton DeWeese has made his way up to 5th and he's still coming, very good signs.
Now, Mike Tellier was one of 6 drivers in the field here tonight that took part in the season finale last year at Charlotte Motor Speedway. He actually just made a pass on Dylan Stipe, who's coming to pit road. Scheduled or unscheduled, do you think? 34 laps in.
Interesting. Well, there's a couple things to consider here. Like, let's take a look at tires, right? Normally, pretty commonly, this series tends to run with a setup that's going to make them have to make a stop in each of the stages as well. So 5 sets of tires to 9, 35 laps, 70, 105. 2 lots of 70 is 140 plus. So he's gonna have to save a set of tires at some point. But coming down now means that he's grabbing tires. Alternatively, he could actually be just looking for fresh air out on the track, and that's not a bad idea either.
Jacob Grant, your race leader, as well as his teammate Caleb Smith, came down
Jason's
pit
around
lane.
on pit entry. He saves it. He has.
Wow.
Oh my word.
Maybe that's why he had a Bristol Dirt win earlier on this year, because that guy apparently knows how to wheel it.
Oh my word.
Evan Coleman in the 51 is coming down pit road as well behind Jensen.
Can we get an onboard of that? Can we get an onboard replay of that one, please?
Why not?
Put yourself in Oscar Jensen's shoes, ladies and gents.
Let's take a look at the hands on that 46. This is coming down the back straightaway. Caution's out. We're going to have to check back and see what that's for. I think Justin Belmonte might have run into an issue as the yellow flag is waving. This is the onboard with Jensen. Look at this. Wow, what a save. As I believe it was the 12 of Justin Belmonte that's bringing out this first caution of the night. And this might have been a case of another driver trying to get onto pit road.
Jacob Grant's gone. Something's happened to Jacob Grant.
Oh, yeah, something has. Oh, wow, we had ourselves a stack up coming to pit road here. Monty, Jeremy Bouchy, and Braxton DeWeese is what brings out this caution. The 12 slowing, the 73 and the 3 did not slow nearly as much, and they came back up on the racing surface. And then Alonso Chicano comes flying in, and there's Jacob Grant in the 18.
Oh.
Wow.
Oh, man. I mean, that's his best possible. That is the strongest that he has looked all season long. He's clearly frustrated. Clearly incredibly frustrated. I mean, Braxton DeWeese is going to be frustrated. Look at who this race has suddenly just been handed over to. There's a whole bunch of cars that were just coming to pit road just to get their services done. I mean, they've now lost laps. You got Chicano's massively damaged. So the benefit here is that we haven't just completely and utterly dropped some cars out of the race, but we have in terms of others. What a horrid night for a couple of the guys out there.
Chicano, DeWeese, Grant, all with a lot of damage on their machines. There's the shot that Chicano gave to Braxton DeWeese, number 3. David Durand hit the wall to try and get around that wreck. I think he did manage to do so, but it was a close shave for him. And I don't know about the damage sustained there by Jeremy Bouchy, because he took a pretty good shot into the back bumper of the 12 car.
There's a lot to figure out. I don't think everything's going to shuffle itself out until we get back to green flag running again. I have a feeling we're at two to go. So we should find out very shortly. Just taking a quick look through, Oscar Jensen obviously looks fine. Alex Link looks okay, so no issues there. Our good friend Matt Rodriguez, let's not talk about his last outing in Clutch Drop Cup. Link's gonna shuffle down pit lane again. Schilling looks okay. There's a fair few guys that look okay. Tellier's been running back in the pack. So is Dylan Stipe. So these guys are they're just settling. They're just waiting. You know, obviously people around them are making a lot of errors, making a lot of mistakes, and some people are picking up the pieces. And the people that are going to be picking up the pieces once again is going to be guys like Tellier, guys like Stipe. So we'll see how that goes.
I was going to go back real quick, and I thought David Duran made it through the wreck, but I saw that he was not listed on the telemetry. Apparently some connection problems for him. He did return back into the server, though, and has come back out onto the racetrack. I think he did manage to stay on the lead lap as well. A couple of drivers that I think were trapped a lap down when that caution came out and are looking to take the wave around. The 51 of Evan Coleman is the car right there behind the pace truck, so when the lights go out, he should be able to go around and get his lap back. Same for the 25 of Caleb Smith.
Well, this just got a shake-up.
It did. No doubt. I mean, we
Do
had
my
what?
eyes deceive me? Have we got Brandon King and Matt Rodriguez on the front row? We do.
Yep.
Oh god.
And both of these drivers had come down pit lane under this caution, came out first and second. You got Derek Schilling, our Daytona winner. He's up there in the third position. Mike Teller in fourth. Just to kind of put into perspective here, folks, none of these four drivers were running up inside of the top 8 before that caution came out.
Oh my word. So the number 3 service. Braxton DeWeese is his uncle, Corporal Matthew DeWeese, on the banner at the top of his car this evening. So you will actually see names of a few people. Don't look at the one car. We're not looking at the one car. We're just going to ignore him. On the stripe at the top of the windscreen this evening. Those guys are. They're honoring, as a part of Memorial Day services, fallen members serving their nations. So Braxton DeWeese is obviously honoring his uncle served for 24 years of naval service. So thank you very kindly for your service. An update as well from Braxton DeWeese. He has been on a mission today. He's run the Dover race that we broadcast earlier. Before that, he ran 600, the Coca-Cola 600 just before that. So he's on a mission. Yeah, a long time, a lot of seat time today. He's gonna be fatigued, massively fatigued by the end of this one.
I saw all the parameters of that Coke 600 a couple of days ago, and I just was completely perplexed of what drivers mentally and physically were going to be after running that 600 miler. And boy, man, credit to Braxton DeWeese for being able to not only run that, but then run 200 laps at Dover. It doesn't look like he'll be able to complete the 260 here at Charlotte, as he still sits on pit road getting repairs done to his race car. Is Brandon King going to lead us back to the green over Matthew Rodriguez, Derek Schilling, Mike Tellier, and Jeremy Bouchy? It's going to be interesting to follow that 73 the remainder of this race because, as mentioned, he got some pretty good front-end damage running into the back of Justin Belmonte. He then, in turn, got run into behind by Braxton DeWeese, so he is going to be dealing with some damage for the remainder of this race.
There was some damage there, but it wasn't massive! Oh my word! Matt Rodriguez nearly in the fence in 3 and 4.
Same for Derek Schilling. The both of them rode up the track there close to the wall in turn 3.
Having said that, it is Matthew Rodriguez that takes the lead of this race. Man, if you'd have told me earlier tonight that we'd be commentating Matthew Rodriguez leading a race, I would have told you, get out. Oh, I quit. I'm done.
We've also got 219 laps left. I'm wondering how long we can hold out on the story of the driver banner.
Tellier just got loose off of right in the middle of 3 and 4. Very, very loose. Something I can say is that I'm pretty sure that Matthew Rodriguez and Mike Tellier are on the same setup. Now, whether or not those two guys will tweak it and run it slightly differently as the race progresses, a completely different story. It seems like Matt's found something right now. Mike Tellier's just found his way past Brandon King as well. So there's a fair few stories. Yeah, look, I'm not going to mention it. I wasn't going to mention it. If you want to mention it, Seth, that's your problem. I'm not responsible
I might mention it. I'll think about it. I got lots of time to think about whether to mention it or not. Got a car on pit road. Oh, no, spinning, actually. Justin Belmonte apparently losing it off of 4. Drifts it down to the infield on the front straightaway, but it's out of harm's way, so no caution will fly.
Well, we've seen that as well. Something I will say about the cautions here this week during the Coke 600 is that they've been very, very lenient. iRacing automatic cautions have not been throwing themselves at the earliest possible moment. They've been waiting. It takes a lot to force a caution here, so you may actually have to see some of the admins within the server manually call some of the cautions. So,
now it's interesting.
Did you see the massive accident in the truck race that ripped one of the cars to shreds?
I did. Oh my goodness, yeah, Johnny Slaughter. Whole left side of his car completely ripped off. Don't remember exactly who the truck was that was up against the wall, but yeah, that was definitely a scary wreck.
The wreck, if you actually have a look at the wreck himself, he was completely and utterly fine, because the wreck actually wasn't, it could have been a lot worse. And the right-hand side of his truck only got ripped off because that's what the trucks were designed to do. I think the scariest part about the whole thing was watching John Hunter Nemechek's camera get ripped off. Because that was a huge hit of like a spring or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was. We also had the Indy 500 run earlier on today. Saw who was it? I believe it was Connor Daly get the tire off of Graham Rahall's car. So yeah, well, here tonight, some of these drivers taking hits just as hard, and 4 drivers are going to, at this point in time, not even halfway through this race, not even to the first stage completion, out of the event. Alonso Chicano will be 14th, Braxton DeWeese in 15th, Jacob Grant in 16th, and Keenan Massey in 17th. It looks like we may have just added another driver to the list. Justin Belmonte looks like he may have just been pushed back to the garage area to finish in 13th place. And you talked about, you mentioned it back when that wreck took place. This just opens the door now for a number of other drivers that were running outside of the top 5, top 10 the early stages of this race. It now breathes life into them to possibly be able to pick up, for some of them, their first win of the season. For some others, maybe the first win of their Clutch Drop Cup Series careers.
Hang on. We got to keep our eyes on a battle that's forming right now. I believe it's Bushi and Oscar Jensen going head-to-head. Bushi got very, very loose on the entry portions of 1 and 2, right as Jensen got underneath him. Alex Link is going to try and follow his way through. These guys are teammates, so they know that they don't really want to fight. But the other thing is here that these guys love racing each other. The one benefit I got of sitting in the common... sitting out a race from the commentary booth last week and actually sitting in was I was in the SRD team chat and just listening to these guys. They're the kind of guys that just live and breathe racing. They just love it. Alex Link's on the radio right now, like, Mom and Dad, please stop beating each other up. He's talking about Oscar Jensen and Jeremy Bushi.
Both of those
Alex
drivers,
Link,
Bushi and Jensen, both former winners. Link looking for his first win on the season. And, of course, for Oscar Jensen, I mean, we saw him out in front leading this thing the first few laps before coming to pit road, had that spin getting onto pit lane. He's obviously trying to mount a comeback after that. I believe he was the lucky dog when the caution came out.
You got to know when to hold him, you got to know when to fold him, and you got to know when to take your luck when you can ride it. Oh, man. Oh my word! But yeah, look at the number of drivers we've lost so far tonight. Not necessarily just lost, but also the drivers that are now running with damaged goods, shall we say? Look at the quality of drivers that are surging. Look at the quality of drivers that are falling away. I mean, how many laps does Matt Rodriguez run now? And he's not just Stipe's all the way down towards the apron. Something happened there. Stipe had a problem.
And Tim Hendry's going to get the wall now up in turn 3 because of the force slowing up. So some damage on the right side of his 72.
A few things to work through and find. Oh my God, Jensen and Bushi are still going at it. They've been like attached at the hip for like the last 10 laps. This is awesome. But yeah, perfect opportunity. I mean, Matt Rodriguez. We laugh about our main man. Oh, there's that contact between Bushi and Oscar Jensen. I'm trying to get something out.
I don't think there was much daylight, that's for sure.
There was inches. I nearly went with millimeters there, and I remembered, hang on, American broadcast boys, got to stick to inches. In that one, there was, quarter of an inch, fraction of an inch. There was something of an inch. I don't think it was a full inch left before those guys touched. Bushi's going to lose a lot of momentum, and Alex Link is now all over the rear bumper of him. Remember what I said, these guys just love racing. They're just out there enjoying themselves. That's what they want to do. Yeah, Matt Rodriguez. I mean, we can sit here and we can beat around the bush and go, Matt Rodriguez, what a funny guy. Thinks he can drive a race car. He can apparently drive a race car.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, we didn't really get to see what Matthew Rodriguez was able to do last season at Charlotte. His race ended very early. Well, the less said about that, the better. You made the championship battle very interesting, that's for sure. But right now, I mean, that car's pulling away, too. I'm looking at his lap times right now, and he is running about a tenth to a tenth and a half faster than this battle for second place between David Duran and Mike Telliers. So, he started this race all the way back in 17th, but after getting that car out in clean air, it has set sail.
I'm just about to say, can I get on the horn to Dylan Stipe and just be like, hey mate, can we just get a penalty for Matt Rodriguez? We don't want to have to talk about him leading a motor race. That's no good for his ego. We're gonna have to put up with that, mate. Can we get something done about that?
If we're looking for a reason for a penalty, I'll tell the story now. We'll leave that in as the segue.
Yes!
So, all right. So, as you pointed out with Braxton DeWeese, obviously a number of drivers here tonight running the memorial banners, the driver banners for relatives, friends that are fallen heroes in the United States Armed Forces. Well, Matthew Rodriguez, apparently not realizing this, decided to put his good friend, former Navy recruit. Well, I'm trying to figure out Navy soldier. Yeah, there you go. Thank you very much. Words are difficult sometimes. Shane Tyrion, who of course was a former Luminary Racing driver last season. He spent a good stint in the Navy, now recently retired from it. Matthew Rodriguez honoring him with the driver banner. However, Matt Rod not realizing that it's supposed to be honoring those that have lost their lives. And so, let's just say that when Shane Tyrion was shown the photo that he was going to be represented on Matthew Rodriguez's driver banner here tonight, he very promptly replied, "I'm not dead." So that's how we could penalize Matthew Rodriguez here.
I'm not going to make comment on a penalty received in another league as well for delivery based
very smart. Very smart.
Look, Matt has an amazing sense of humor. I don't think this was a sense of humor. I think this was just an out-and-out mistake. But look, I mean, when the guy's running well, he's running really, really well, and I'm glad that he's only showed up to one race so far this season. We'll put it that way.
Well, right now he is in line to win his first stage in the next 11 laps if he can hold this lead. David Durand right now in second, Mike Teller in third. As a matter of fact, with only 12 drivers still running in this race, all 12 of them on the lead lap, there's only 2 drivers that at the conclusion of these first 70 laps that are not going to get stage points. And if we continue to have these drivers all remain in the race up to the end, then it will continue that trend even over to the conclusion of stage 2. And that battle's not going away between Jeremy Boucher and Oscar Jensen. It's for 5th place, but the way they're racing, it might as well be for the race lead.
Yeah, I mean, they have no concept that they're not actually racing for a win at all. I mean, you've also got to consider that Jeremy Boucher's got damage, and Oscar Jensen burned up his tires very, very early in the run, so I have a feeling these guys are going to run this full 70 laps on their tires. Anyone that has pit stop was a splash and dash only, just to make sure they got through the end of the stage. Now, the next question is, how good is Matt with maths? Did he add enough fuel, is my next question. Because I'm wondering how he got the lead.
He might have taken tires, to be honest. I think he and Mike Tellier both might have actually taken tires. Both spent about 14 and a half seconds in their pit stalls. David Durand had those connection problems when he pulled down to his pit stall, so I don't know if he went with a 4-tire stop or not, but I believe that at least the one in the 97 did take on a set of Goodyears here for this run to the end of stage 1.
Right, so this Matt running off into the distance thing isn't very representative of the driver that he is. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. Yeah, good, carry on, Matt.
He's about to come down here for 8 laps to go in stage number 1. Battle behind them is going to be, I believe, for the 7th position, Derek Schilling, looking back to Evan Coleman and Dylan Stipe. Looks like Stipe's car finally a little bit better here the longer the run has gone on. You mentioned about him getting out of shape earlier on. I saw him when we went back green. His car actually almost lost it on that restart lap out of 2. So apparently his car set up rather loose, which obviously would make the car handle a lot better as it starts to tighten up the longer the run goes on.
Yeah, I mean, something else that I did learn actually throughout longer runs as well, more of a fixed setup feature than an open setup feature, was that the top line. Sorry, excuse me. Oh, idiotic. I did not get enough sleep last night. The top line, the top groove, does work to a degree. It doesn't overly work. It does help you save a little bit of tire, but you've got to save like a lot of momentum. You've really got to keep that momentum up, or that low groove is just going to run on by you like it's going out of fashion. So There's a few things going on there. So fuel obviously is a major concern then if you're running that higher group, but it's an option. Stipe has been running it all the way to the white line pretty much most of the way through the stints. Obviously running on that seam through 3 and 4 right now, trying to maintain a lot of his momentum. I think he should have Derek Schilling before the end of this stage here, so don't put that past him just yet.
Well, based off of when we saw a lot of drivers start to come down for a cycle of green flag pit stops, all these drivers should be able to make it to the conclusion of this first stage on what they've got in the tank. Matthew Rodriguez starting to close in there on the 25 of Caleb Smith. Smith will try and remain on the lead lap, but there is quite a big gap from him up to Alex Link, so the likelihood that Link goes a lap down slim to none, so Caleb Smith, even if he does get lapped here by Matthew Rodriguez, might be able to get the free pass as Matthew Rodriguez hits the line. Going to be 4 laps to go here in the stage, and trying to remember if the 25 got involved in an incident here. Was he caught up in that incident that also involved some of his teammates there in DeWeese and Grant?
Feeling that Caleb Smith may have had his own issues earlier on in the run that were off camera, so I think there's something completely unrelated there. The other thing is, I mean, running around with Braxton DeWeese as well, he could be another one he's just really starting to fatigue. It's when you're running a 600 followed by a Dover race followed by another league race, you know, if that isn't intense, I don't know what is.
And apparently I was wrong. I thought Alex Link might be able to hold off Matthew Rodriguez here. But nope, he's going to have to give way to that M&M's Toyota Camry, so he'll follow a lap down. And a big reason why you're seeing some of these... Well, the reason you're seeing some of these guys falling a lap down to the race leader, you talked about the possibility of drivers coming down, just topping off the fuel tank under that last yellow. Well, that was the case for some of these guys, like the 71, like the 25. I believe Tim Hendry in the 72, Dylan Stipe in the 4, they all came down and just topped off the fuel tank. So it's paying dividends for Matthew Rodriguez taking on that set of tires, because he's going to be putting quite a number of drivers a lap down that probably thought they'd all be able to stay on the lead lap by the time this first stage came to a close.
Well, Rodriguez is coming around to 1 to go, and I mean, he's right there with Dylan Stipe. He's only half a second back. I mean, if you look at Stipe, he's right there in the picture. This is an issue, because if he gets by Dylan Stipe before crossing the line, Alex Link has trapped a lap down. Who have we talked about every single week needing to drive through the field, and who we just needed to see a solid performance from? It's Alex Link. If he goes, you can't recover. That's a huge margin. That's a huge... I think Stipe might go. It's going to be so close at the line that Stipe going a lap down.
Nope, Stipe is going to stay on the lead lap.
Oh,
he will
boy.
be about a few car lengths ahead of Matthew Rodriguez, who will see the caution come out here momentarily. The winner of stage number 1, David Durand, crosses in second. Mike Tellier, Jeremy Boucher, and Brandon King. That's going to be the top 5, and breathe a sigh of relief if you're Alex Link, because first car 1 lap down with the stage caution coming out, you would get the free pass and get back on the lead lap. Not so lucky for Caleb Smith. He will be starting the second stage, -1 to the race leaders. I doubt he would be taking the wave around with 35 lap old tires.
You've got to assume that he's got 35 lap old tires to be running that pace, so... Yeah, he's definitely not taking the wave around. I mean... It's an interesting one. Alex Link's like... I said to him last week, I mean, man, you really make it difficult for yourself week in, week out. He said, yeah, you know what? I went back and I watched a few of the broadcasts, and you said that about all the driving that I was going through, and you know what? I really do. It's something I've shown that I've got the talent. I've shown that I've got the ability to be able to drive it that far up and run with these guys, and I'm running on a shared setup, and ultimately some of the weeks that we've seen throughout this season, he's actually been the fastest of the SRD guys for extended periods of racing. My mind goes back to Dover. How many times did he come through the field at Dover?
Yeah, several times.
Do that at Dover of all places, you know. So I'm disappointed to see him down there again. I really thought that this week out he might actually be able to turn it around, especially because it's Coke 600 week. If he's running the official races, I mean, he'd have a lot of time behind the wheel and a lot of practice. Alternatively, maybe other people have just got more.
Well, all the lead lap cars come down pit lane. You saw there when Matthew Rodriguez, David Durand, and Mike Tellier picked up the pace car over in turn 3. The rest of the field hadn't even exited out at turn 2 yet, so obviously a lot of time gained with those tires. But on the flip side, that's going to be an extra set of tires if we get ourselves a late race caution that those three would not be able to fall back on, while the rest of the field would. David Durand actually winning the battle off of pit road. So it looks like he'll be the one to lead us back to green over Matthew Rodriguez. Extended stay on pit lane for Mike Tellier, so Oscar Jensen will move up to third, Jeremy Bouchy fourth, and Dylan Stipe in fifth for this restart. But let's see if we can dial up the driver of the number 1 machine, our stage 1 winner, Matthew Rodriguez. Hey Matt, it's Scott and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Oh, howdy. How you guys doing?
Well, I mean, first off, you've made it past lap 1. Congratulations. Secondly, though, first stage win on the season. Obviously, we know that you played the tire strategy with the speed we saw you and the rest of the top 3 having there. But, you know, obviously you get the advantage with getting the stage points here. But does that kind of make you worried for later on in the race if we get ourselves some late race yellows?
I mean, it's like you said, it's a miracle I made it past lap 1, so hey, might as well just keep running with it. Don't know how long we're going to keep lasting in this race, but hey, we're up front, aren't we?
Matt, get out of my booth.
Wow, I thought you'd be nice to see me.
Look, I mean, you got yourself a stage win tonight. I mean, I might celebrate by eating a spoonful of Vegemite. Can I expect the same from you?
How about licorice?
No Vegemite.
M&M's?
Vegemite.
Skittles? There's like multiple sponsors of this car. I can just keep reading them off. If you want me to.
Vegemite, just
right,
Vegemite. You have to eat a spoonful of Vegemite for winning the stage win. Are you gonna do that for me? Can you do that for
me? Pay your bills.
All right, so obviously you had a lot of them in your rearview mirror there for the second half of this first stage, but from a driver's point of view here, I mean, a lot of the competition got wiped out there in the first 15 laps. A lot of guys that we saw up at the front leading laps. So, you know, from your point of view, who are some of the guys that we're looking at now to be able to get up here and maybe take this thing?
Durand is the one that really has me scared here at the moment, as well as Oscar. Oscar, I think he may have gotten involved in one of the pit road incidents, but he's kind of snuck his way back up here. But David, the only advantage I really have on David right now is David has engine damage, and I can beat him on the straightaways, but since he's down on engine power, he's beating me pretty much in the corners, which is not good. But hopefully I can see if I can make a quick escape from everyone here and quickly run away.
My final question for you, Matt. How proud are you that it wasn't you that caused the wreck tonight?
Actually, there was one point where I was trying to pass Tellier on the bottom in that first run, and I felt the car start to push up when I was running underneath him. I was like, no, not like this, not like this. And Tellier got a good scream out of it, so I think we're doing quite well. I'm happy I haven't been involved in an accident here yet, but I don't have any wood next to me to knock on, so.
Well, you heard it, ladies and gentlemen. Matt Rodriguez to die in this stage.
Yeah.
He's predicting the future. Well, Matt, first off, congratulations on winning the stage. Secondly, thank you for representing the memory of Shane Terrian, and best of luck in stage 2.
Yeah, it's been tough about the life of Shane, but I think we'll manage.
And obviously the engine damage that he was referring to for David Durand, I'm going to assume that that was him hitting the wall when he was looking to avoid those drivers off of turn 4.
Potentially, it does look like there's a couple crinkles up towards the front end of the car. So yeah, he definitely looks slow. I'm done, man. I'm done. In loving memory of Shane Terrian. Oh my god.
Getting ourselves ready here for the second stage. Looking towards lap 140 as David Durand going to get us back under the green flag. Of course, David looking for his first win on the season. He's been very consistent in terms of his finishes, but just has not been able to grasp that brass ring and get his first victory on the season. He's going to lead Oscar Jensen into turn 1 as Jensen's going to clear Matthew Rodriguez for the runner-up spot.
Well, I mean, Jensen didn't quite clear Rodriguez. I mean, the benefit of running around the high side is that you do get the ability to get more momentum built up. We'll see how this settles back down again. The one thing that I have noted from Matty Rodriguez is that he definitely looks consistent. So, well, there you go. There's David Duran just getting passed by.
Yeah,
that's how far down he is.
Stuck in the middle. Rodriguez went high, wide, and handsome around the top. Jensen down on the inside, and yeah, just like that, Durand dropping outside of the top 5.
Derek Schilling got stuck in behind David Duran, and he's just been shuffled back. No one gave him an opening, and now David Duran's trying to settle in there. You know what? Caleb Smith, I think, he didn't take the wave round. Never mind. I was about to say, I think Caleb Smith may have taken the wave round. He didn't. My eyes are deceiving me. Ignore me. Continue on.
Well, the good news for Caleb Smith is if nobody else gets lapped during this stage, we do have a guaranteed caution coming up at the end of stage 2, so he could get back on the lead lap that way. The thing that kind of worries me, though, with how off the pace we're seeing that 24 here, if he loses touch with the lead group and he's running all by himself, he could maybe end up getting lapped before we get to the end of this 70-lap stage 2 segment.
But then again, there's always a possibility that Caleb Smith can get back past him, can actually pass him for position if David Durand is actually that slow. So that's another opportunity as well. So don't count that out just yet.
And the other thing we have to remember too is that in this 70 laps,
Matt is just gone.
Yeah, he is. He is pulling away from Jensen and Bushi's battle for second. Brandon King taking a peek there, but don't forget, these drivers are going to have to make at least one trip to pit road here in this stage. They can't make it the full 70 laps. About the furthest that they're able to go is maybe 40 to 45 laps. So that could play a factor into who'd be on the lead lap and who'd be a lap down at the end of the stage as well.
Oh, the 89 of Brandon King was all sorts of loose, and there he goes. He gets loose off of 1 and 2 once again. Is it time to mention it? The FRN curse of having the FRN logo on a car. Matt has opted to run a livery that does not have the FRN logo on it.
Interesting. I didn't notice that. I didn't even think of that. But now that you bring it up, I don't recall. I don't think. Obviously, we always harp on what happened last season, but I don't think that last year at Charlotte, I don't think he was running an FRN car at that point either. However, I know Tom Bourne was.
Yeah, you know what? It was Tom Bourne. Yeah, that's all you need. Jeremy Bushi just got really, really loose coming off of 1 and 2, very sideways. And Derek Schilling just got a touch with Mike Tellier as well. So everyone is still trying to figure themselves out. I think a few of these guys have come down to pit road and made adjustments to their race car to make them looser. I think they all got a little bit too tight on that run. I think Matt has maybe not made a huge amount of changes, and that's why he's really, really quick right now, but he's going to fall off, if that's the case.
You see right there with our weather conditions, track temp only about 83 degrees. That's relatively cool for a track that's had a number of green flag laps put into it. So a lot of grip for these drivers to be able to work with, and that could be why they're trying to set up their cars a little bit looser, because as we know, loose is fast but on the edge of out of control, and if you've got that little bit of added grip to hopefully keep your car steady through the corners, you're going to try and take advantage of it with those adjustments.
Well, somebody else to just sort of keep an eye on is, like I said, Mike Tellier was working with Matty Rodriguez for setups. So keep an eye on the way that Mike Tellier's car's handling. Right now, he looks like he's getting really, really tight in the center of the corners in traffic. So there's a couple of differences like right there. So you can't sort of just take the playbook, slap it down on the ground, and go, Matt Rodriguez's car's going to handle like this. And in fact, I think Jensen's already gotten up to him and gotten by.
He is about to clear him off of turn 4. Took him a while to get back up to the front after his spin onto pit road back during the first stage, but the pole sitter finds his way back to the front here 85 laps in.
Come on, Oscar. Wait, do I want to cheer for Oscar or do I want to cheer for Matt here? I don't know.
Oh, wow, Brandon King. What a save back there. I don't know what happened to him. There was really nobody around him, but that thing got really loose off of turn 2 and almost went all the way down to the inside wall in the back straightaway.
Yeah, look, I mean, who knows? Like I said, I'm watching guys come off turn 1 and 2, it seems to be the trouble spot. I mean, when you're watching it and when you're driving it, for me, the hardest point on the track is definitely the middle of turn 3. Your car really just wants to start running up towards the wall, and you've got to try and make sure that your car is loose enough to wiggle that thing and get it back down, or you've got to wipe off enough speed to get it back down there. So that's been the trouble spot for me all week, is just trying to get the cars turned. So to see drivers struggling with rear grip and struggling to get the power down off of 1 and 2 is really bizarre.
Right now, the odds are in favor of a driver getting their first win of the season. Only 3 drivers in the remaining 12 out there have been to victory lane either once or more this season. Oscar Jensen, multi-time winner, Derek Schilling, Daytona winner, and Jeremy Bushi, 2-time winner. Everybody else has not been to victory lane yet this season. However, Oscar Jensen's leading this race.
He is, and that's certainly a big margin. Something else I'm sort of watching as well is that Mr. Rodriguez not really falling back off of Oscar Jensen too much. There's a little bit of a gap there, but he's sort of just going with him. The benefit here as well is that he hasn't had to fight anyone, whereas I think Jensen's had to overtake a fair few people. So Jensen's tires will definitely be hurting a little bit from that, but he's managed to run it up and get past Matt. So let's factor in a few things. Let's factor in that green flag stop is coming. Do you go early, do you go late? Well, survey says go late. And the reason for going late is that the pit stops was what caused the caution in the first stage. So you want to be the last one to pit because you want everyone else to have a crack at going into pit lane, mess it up, throw out a caution, and you get a free pit.
That's a great point. In terms of messing it up, Oscar Jensen obviously did not hit anything when he spun to pit road, but, between him and Matthew Rodriguez, even throw in Dylan Stipe, Oscar Jensen had that spin onto pit road. Matthew Rodriguez and Dylan Stipe, they're yet to make a green flag pit stop. So, of these guys, which one is the most worried coming up there on the horizon of another trip to pit road under green flag conditions?
I think it's Matt Rodriguez. I don't know how many green flag stops he's made of lately. I know Stipe has made a fair few over the last couple of weeks. I don't know that Oscar Jensen, yeah, sure, he's made a mistake, but you come down, you make a mistake, you learn from it, right? So he knows what the limit is for this next set of green flag stops because he's already gone a little bit beyond that. It was only a little bit too. Let's remind ourselves of that. So a couple tweaks, couple adjustments, I think he'll be fine.
Looking back to Brandon King from the back bumper of Dylan Stipe. This is your battle for 3rd place. Mike Tellier back there in the 97 trying to close in, make it a 3-man fight for the final spot inside the podium.
It'll be interesting to see how this battle develops as well. So you got a fair few guys that are really looking to put their stamp on a race and play their way into those playoffs contentions as well. And first and foremost, they got to get around each other. This is really important for the battle in the last stage of the race as well. Whoever comes out on top here doesn't have to get by the other cars. Remember, so he's got a better crack at attempting to get past Matt. If they manage to save enough tire as well, the alternative option is all of a sudden they just start driving up towards Matt. I think, actually, just having a quick look, I think the leaders might be slowly starting to come back to the field.
And you would be correct. Both of the top 2, Oscar Jensen and Matthew Rodriguez, had over a second between themselves in 3rd place. Rodriguez now only running about 0.7 of a second ahead of the 89, and it's only maybe about 1.4 seconds from Brandon King up to race leader Oscar Jensen. So definitely that 89 car, who just got around Dylan Stipe for 3rd, starting to reel in the top 2. And I mentioned the fact that this is the longest race that these drivers will run all season long in terms of race length, in terms of miles. It also is the final race of the first half of the regular season, setting us for the point of the season that a lot of people call the chase towards the chase, or the chase towards the playoffs down the home stretch. And there's a lot of drivers I'm seeing here right now that have had great consistent seasons but not found victory lane. There's also some, though, that haven't found victory lane and they have struggled. Evan Coleman in the 51, Tim Hendry in the 72, Alex Link in the 71, and even Brandon King running there in 3rd place. In some ways, this could be a race that will set the tone, set the momentum for you down that final stretch towards the playoffs.
Yeah, it will, and there's a few guys in particular that I'm looking at. Like you said, I think Tim Hendry's a really interesting one to sort of focus on. We saw him go with an alternative strategy at, I think it was Dover, and there was a time there where I thought for sure Hendry was going to win that race. It was either going to be Hendry or Alex Link, and neither of them did. So, look, I mean, I want to see some more consistency from consistency. I mean, I've been talking about it all night about a fair few people, but Hendry is one of the guys I really want to see settle in finally.
These drivers just came off the heels of the first road course race of the season last week at Circuit of the Americas. After tonight's event, they'll be heading out into the West Coast to Napa Valley for the second road course stop of the season at Sonoma Raceway. Obviously, Oscar Jensen's been very good at the road courses we've seen. We also know that Braxton DeWeese has been good at the road course of COTA last week, and so he'll be looking for some redemption after a heartbreak here tonight, DNFing in the 15th position. But these drivers here still got to get this race over with, and we haven't even gotten to the completion of Stage 2. What we do know is that we're only about maybe 10 to 15 laps away from when these drivers will be starting to think about coming down pit road.
Yeah, I mean, they've got to make a fuel stop. I think they're just about in the window now, anytime sort of from now. So what we're looking at, 140? Yes, halfway at this stage, so what we're looking at is, 35 laps in. You've got to remember that this is the shortest stage of the night, because obviously the caution laps between the two, the end of the first stage, takes just a couple of laps out of running to the end of the second stage. So something to consider there. Look, I mean, what I want to see right now is I want to see who's saved up their tires, who's really got the pace. Brendan King is really starting to show that turn of speed. He's only just off the rear bumper of Matt Rodriguez, but you know what? 1.7 seconds is the lead out to Oscar Jensen. Oscar has showed his dirt skills so far this season, and I haven't really seen a whole bunch else of him. He hasn't run right up at the pointing end a lot of the time. He's been thereabouts, but not out and out raw pace running away from this. So this is a really, really good showing from him tonight, something he definitely needed.
Oscar has a 1.5 mile win this season at Kansas Speedway, and so obviously with that previous experience at 1.5 mile tracks, showing it here tonight at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Obviously, as we've talked about, he hasn't had the dominant car of the night. He actually faded back after a pit road entrance miscue, but has now worked his way back up to the front. And when we talked with our Stage 1 winner, Matthew Rodriguez, he said, the two drivers that he singled out, David Durand, if that car was still up to speed. Obviously, we've been able to figure out, no, that car is not up to speed. And Oscar Jensen was the other one that he singled out. And Jensen right now showing the way, and not only is he doing that, but he's also trying to do something that no driver has done so far this season out of the Toyota camp, and that's be a 3-time winner. Chevy's already done it with Braxton DeWeese, and so Toyota and the SRD team trying to see if a Camry can be a 3-time winner here in Clutch Drop.
Car updates as well, because something very, very interesting happened over the last week. iRacing threw out an update, and the Chevy was all of a sudden just not able to keep up with, it was just creating a whole bunch of drag somewhere. Not 100% sure what happened. They managed to get that actually fixed and back up to speed, but multiple drivers during the NASCAR series had to switch cars and hence didn't have their appropriate liveries on, because they were actually, their options were run their appropriate liveries and just be running around as best of the, be fighting out for best of the Chevys, or run a livery that they weren't, they hadn't really entered and gotten approved and gotten completely and utterly ready to go, or their other option was to run, a Chevy and be miles off the pace. It wasn't really an option, if you ask me.
Saw Brandon King get around Matthew Rodriguez for the second spot. He is 3 seconds behind the 46 of Oscar Jensen, and we have now entered 30 laps into this second stage, so maybe the next 5 laps we'll start to see drivers ducking onto pit road. Now, I want to cast your memory back to the season finale last year, talking about the early struggles that we've been seeming to notice with the 4 of Dylan Stipe. Last season, Dylan Stipe only led 18 laps of that Charlotte race. he didn't exactly have his car up there inside of the top 3 for most of that race until we got to the 3rd and final stage. Right now running in that 4th position. I'm almost wondering if we haven't yet been made privy to just exactly the speed that 4 car has. I mean, you talked about, know when to hold him, know when to show him, and it may be a case right now that Dylan Stipe might be kind of holding a little bit back, not overplaying his hand until it really matters heading into that 3rd and final stage.
Yes and no. Ultimately, if you talk to Dylan Stipe about what happened at Charlotte in the playoffs last season, he just wasn't there. He knew that he didn't have something. Yeah, he came to the 4 in the final stage, and he was P2, but Stafford just had his number all day long. It wasn't even close. So, and I'm thinking and feeling the same sort of way here. He can make some tweaks, but he's just a mile off of where he needs to be. So ultimately, I think he's got a lot of work to do. I think it's too much, if you're asking me.
Windows open for these drivers to make it to the conclusion of Stage 2. Jeremy Boucher was down the previous lap. Mike Tellier brings the 97 down this lap. And here comes the leader.
So Oscar Jensen coming in. It'll be interesting to see how long Matt Rodriguez can actually go, whether he can go another couple laps. Most of the field has now come down to pit lane, so it looks like everyone was running it right out to the back end of the fuel window.
Brandon King's going to move out to the race lead, and well, I can't remember the last time this 89 was out in front leading laps. Might have to go back to a super speedway race when he was able to put that car out in front, but now out in front leading this race at Charlotte. We'll see how long before he and the rest of the field decide to come down pit lane. It looks like David Durando, Alex Link came to pit road last lap. Dylan Stipe is coming down pit road this time.
So I think there's only going to be a couple cars left out. And is that Evan Coleman that's all of a sudden all over Matt Rodriguez's rear bumper?
It is. Evan Coleman, that 51, having a very solid run here tonight. Was able to avoid the early carnage back in Stage 1 and has worked his way slowly up through the top 10. Now, due to some drivers coming to pit road, up inside of the top 5 for the first time this evening.
Yeah, there's a fair bit coming on. I mean, how long can these guys actually go? Brandon King's still going. Matt Rodriguez is still going. Just behind them, Dylan Stipes just cycled out of pit lane. Just behind them, Alex Link. Alex Link has made his stop. Has to have made his stop for sure.
He has,
to be still running in 12th. He hasn't found any speed. I'm wondering whether or not Alex Link has actually found damage on the front end of his car.
Not certain. He might have. We know that there's a couple of drivers that got some bumps and scrapes during that first stage. We know the 24 got some engine damage. Looks like Brandon King actually spent a little bit extra time at the end of Stage 1 getting some repairs done on his machine. A little extra time in his pit stall. So even our race leader currently had found some issues. Evan Coleman is down pit road this time in the 51. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe that 71 might have found a little bit of damage along the ways. And you wouldn't necessarily think it at a track like Charlotte, but it really is a very aero-dependent track.
Just necessarily say aero, but air, yeah, definitely, because the speed that you're carrying through all the corners here, and all the corners I think are quite high load. The track surface itself isn't massively abrasive, but it's the load that's going through the tires. They're receiving a big old battering, so. Look, for my liking, it's a lot, and Matt Rodriguez is going to be the last to pit, and I think he's on his way in, and Derek Schilling is going to follow him down.
Rodriguez, Schilling, and David Durand are the last 3 drivers who are waiting on to come to pit road. Rodriguez down the pit lane this time, same for the 69. This will be turning the race lead over to either Oscar Jensen or Brandon King, and there's your answer. Pass for the lead right there. Jensen going around King, who just came off of pit road. So once things cycle around, Jensen's going to have himself a pretty sizable lead. The guy that came down early that's going to benefit from this is going to be the 97 of Mike Tellier. He might cycle around to second place.
Yeah, he needed some clear air. He was just running in too much traffic and a whole bunch of guys just really, really trying to fight him. So I think the best possible thing that he could have done for himself was to come down early, find that clear air. Yeah, you lose a little bit in terms of the draft, but ultimately he needed to look after his tires first and foremost. He was working them very, very hard in the fight that he was in. So it'll be interesting to see where this shakes itself out.
Oscar Jensen has now cycled back to the lead. Tellier in second. Evan Coleman, the only representative here tonight out of CEM Motorsports. He's up to third. King in fourth, and Dylan Stipe will complete the top 5. David Duran did lose a lap with his green flag pit stop, so 10 drivers on the lead lap of 12 still out there on the racetrack. Oscar Jensen right now is about roughly 12 seconds behind Tim Hendry. I don't know if he will reel in that 72 in these final 26 laps or so or not. Obviously, David Durant certainly hoping that would not be the case. And Jensen's got something to worry about. Mike Tellier, I think Tellier went with 4 tires again.
Yeah, yeah. Because I was just looking at the sector times, and I was just like, he's gaining nearly a half to 3/4 of a second every sector. Did he not uncheck them? This is bizarre, because he took... The other side of the coin is, if he took tires halfway point of that first stage, did he not take them at the stage break? If he didn't take them at the stage break, he should have led the race off of pit road. So I'm confused as anything. And he wouldn't have been able to stay with the pack. Like, there's multiple things going on there.
These drivers were only given 5 sets here tonight. The set that they started with and 4 sets on pit road. So let's speculate that he did take tires between the stage break of 1 and 2. We know that he took a set on in the middle of stage 1. He takes a set on here in the middle of stage 2. That only leaves him with 2 sets of tires available to him in the 120 lap final stage.
Well, I was going to say, I think that's only 1 left over, isn't it? So he's got to look. I think he's got to leave these tires on the car.
Right. You're right. It would only be the 1 set left.
What's that? 120 laps on 1 set of tires? They'll blow.
Yeah.
They won't make that distance.
Well, they've only, for the most part, made it 45 laps on a green flag run, and Matthew Rodriguez, I believe, also followed the same strategy as the 97. He took on a set of tires here under the round of green flag pit stops. I'm not so certain about this one.
No, I don't think he did. Wait, what? No, there's no way he did. Look at how far down he's gone. Oh my god, you're right, he did. No. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. No, he didn't.
Will we ever know the answer?
Oh my god, he did.
I think he did, based off of the amount of time spent in his pit stall. He was very conservative getting onto pit road. That might have been what lost him the time that he did. Dropping from what would have been, I think, 3rd when the pit stops began down to 7th.
I'll be right back. I need to go double check.
All right, and the question is, did Tellier and Rodriguez, did they take on a set of tires there between the stage break of stage 1 and 2? If they didn't, then they might be okay, because they're going to at least need 2 sets of tires for the 3rd and final stage, unless they're going to, by some miracle, be able to make 60 laps on a run, and I just don't see how they're going to be able to do that. But Mike Tellier, coming into tonight, only 1 stage win on the season, and right now he's about 20 laps away from picking up stage win number 2. Of course, Mike Tellier was a 3-time winner last season. He was the regular season champion as well. And I don't, off the top of my head, remember how many stages he had for wins last year, but it was a lot. I believe it was actually the most of any driver that year. This season, we haven't seen him out in front nearly as much as we were accustomed to back in season 1.
Okay, so Mike Tellier is making a play at a points race. He says, I need the stage win. It's going to help me get the points. He's going for a big points race. Because there's only 12 cars left in the race, he can run the last stage and get 12th. But he'll get a massive points boost out of getting the stages. So he's got, what, P2 in the first stage and P1 here? However, Matt Rodriguez did not take tires.
He did not, okay.
He's got 2 sets left for the final stage.
Very interesting there because, I mean, Mike Tellier, obviously we saw that he was able to gain track position with the strategy of taking on tires back at the end of stage 1. I'm a little bit surprised that he didn't just try and maintain that track position here in stage 2, but as you mentioned, going for those stage points, and with not having a win so far this season, already big picture racing just in case he can't find victory lane down the home stretch of the schedule. To make sure that he's going to have enough points to point his way in should there be spots available to do that.
Well, my question is, how many cars can he lap? Because he's coming up on a fair few of them. He's 9 seconds back from Matt Rodriguez right now. He's under 4 seconds. He's about 3 seconds off of the rear end of Tim Hendry. So Tim Hendry's getting lapped. No word of a lie. I think there's enough laps for him to actually get past Matt Rodriguez based on his current pace. And Brandon King is really starting to languish as well. So I think at the end of this stage, we're only going to have a couple cars in the lead lap.
That, of course, would heighten the odds of Mike Tellier finishing up higher than 12th position. Depending on how many cars he can put off the lead lap, as just had a pass there. Alex Link getting around Matthew Rodriguez. You got to think that maybe they're of the same mentality, thinking, hey, we're not out of the woods. We could end up getting lapped before this stage comes to a close. There's still 15 laps left.
I think Alex Link is just going, Kelly is coming. I got to put the afterburners on, so I think there's going to be a few question marks being placed over quite a few drivers right now on whether or not they're still potentially in contention.
Tellier's going to see 15 laps to go in stage 2, this time by hitting the start-finish line. Jensen, who did not take on tires on his pit stop, back in second, over 8 seconds behind Mike Tellier, and then it's another 4.5 seconds back to Evan Coleman in the 51. Right now, if you're looking for a battle on track, it's still that battle for the 7th position, Alex Link and Matthew Rodriguez, who, as you pointed out, they're only running about maybe 6.5 seconds ahead of the race leader.
Yeah, it's close. So you've got a fair few guys in and around that sort of position. You've got Derek Schilling, you've got Matt Rodriguez, you've got Alex Link, and then ahead of them is Brandon King. And Brandon King's continuing to just sort of drop back towards them. Dylan Stipe has lost a massive amount of time. No, he hasn't. No, my apologies. I just went to read my timing screens, and my timing screen's like, yeah, Dylan Stipe just lost 0.6, 0.7 of a second back to Brandon King. They ran near identical lap times. God damn it, software.
You see up ahead, that's the 72 of Tim Hendry, 10th place, last car on the lead lap. He will most certainly go a lap down, just looking based off of the lap times of those drivers on the tail end lead lap and race leader Mike Tellier. Tellier, that last time by, the only driver to run a lap in the 31-second bracket, 31.5. The guys he's trying to reel in are running low to mid 32s, so Hendry will definitely get lapped. Derek Schilling, I think that it'll be close for him whether he'll stay on the lead lap or not. And then, as you said, it's kind of borderline about Alex Link and Matthew Rodriguez. If they can pick up the pace here on these final 12, 11 laps here of this second stage, whether they can remain on the lead lap or not.
Oh, yes, no, there's a lot going on right here, so we're going to have to really keep an eye on things. I mean, the times from Mike Tellier have been slowly coming back to the rest of the field, so the closing margins is slower and slower and slower, but Tim Hendry is definitely going to go a lap down. I'm pretty sure Derek Schilling is going to go a lap down. I no longer know if Matt Rodriguez and Alex Link will, because the margins in terms of pace have gotten slower and slower and slower from Mike Tellier as the tires sort of normalize towards that lower end of the remaining grip levels. So, could be a few little question marks placed over guys. Like I think Matt is gonna get lapped. I think Alex is gonna be borderline. Alex has definitely got the pace to and the fight to keep himself from going a lap down, but he may do it intentionally as well. He may just let Mike Tellier have it so that he gets the lucky dog again.
Could very well be there.
Stage 1. Remember how stage 1 finished.
Right. And, right now, Alex Link, Matthew Rodriguez, those guys, even if they finish this stage off the lead lap, they're still going to get some stage points. Very important for Alex Link, very important for Brandon King, Dylan Stipe there as well, drivers that have not won this season. The driver that started out the season with a win, Derek Schilling, you see there, is next on the hit list of race leader Mike Tellier. Schilling, we just keep talking about it. He had a very good run at Daytona, got that early win, but the performance has just not seemed to be there to replicate just the strong run that he had at the Super Speedway. Right now, he is in the top 10 in ninth, but he's about to go a lap down to Mike Tellier, as looks like the 69 just cannot hold the bottom through that corner, and that obviously is based on the fact that he doesn't have fresher tires. The 97 does. 8 laps to go in stage number 2.
Now remember, Schilling does not want to see another car go down a lap. So he's going to brush the wall trying to stay with Mike Tellier. So you got to remember, the first guy behind Mike Tellier is getting that free pass. So he wants it to be him. Everybody is, if you're going to get lapped, you want to be like, oh, Schilling's on the wall again. We might get a caution at this rate.
We could very well. That's going to lose him ground to Tim Hendry right here. Could be your battle for the free pass if Tellier cannot get up there to the one of Matthew Rodriguez in these next 6.5 laps.
Just watching the pace now, I don't think he's capable of Mike Tellier is capable anymore of actually getting to Matt Rodriguez. So I think this is going to be where it finishes. So I think probably the most important battle on the track right now is going to be Tim Hendry versus Derek Schilling.
Alex Link, we saw him get around Matthew Rodriguez. He's trying to pick up another spot before the conclusion of the second stage. He's now reeled in Brandon King for 6th place, about 3 car lengths separating those two. And based off of lap times, Link is just a little bit faster. We're seeing Brandon King's car has been slowly going away the longer the run goes on. Link's going to have a shot at him here in 3 and 4.
Yeah, just something on the radio between Derek Schilling and Tim Hendry. Hendry's gotten past Schilling. So I don't know what happened between those guys, but it sounded like Tim Hendry was apologizing for something, so I'm just going to have a quick look at that.
Might have possibly been some contact between those two and what might be the battle for the free pass position as Mike Tellier through 1 and 2 and onto the back straightaway. You don't really see the bright white, red, and blue number 1 of Matthew Rodriguez there in that shot. It's going to be 4 laps to go in the second stage here. So, to your point, I think Rodriguez might be good. So, it really is down between Hendry and Schilling for the free pass position. And looks like that 69 is really falling off now. So, Hendry might be the driver back on the lead lap in the next 3 laps or so, which would give us 9 drivers on the lead lap for the third and final stage. Obviously, with Schilling and Hendry going off the lead lap, that's going to hurt David Duran's chances of finishing this race on the lead lap, already off the pace, and third car scored 1 lap down right now in 11th place.
Yeah, look, for David Duran, there's not much you can really do. Big contact, big engine issues. He's doing the absolute best he can, and I mean, he did a great job to go 3 wide on that opening lap and for nobody to wreck. You know, that was phenomenal on the start of this stage. So really good drive from him tonight. Unfortunately, that is motor racing. Sometimes it's just not your day.
We said probably Matthew Rodriguez wasn't going to go a lap down. All of a sudden, Mike Tellier is closed up to less than half a straightaway between himself and that one machine. He's still got 2 laps to work with this time around.
Yeah, something's clearly happened to Matt Rodriguez. I mean, his tires might just be cooked. So at some stage, he saved a set of tires. At some stage, I don't know when that was, but at some stage, he's banked himself up an extra set of tires because him and Telly were on that same pit strategy. Remember? So I'm not sure exactly when that was, but this might tell a story. In all actuality, I think in terms of Matt Rodriguez's race, if he wants to play games, the best game that he can play is to let Tellier by.
Well, he might not have a choice. Mike Tellier with a little shove to the back on the 1 coming off of turn 4 as he'll see the proverbial white flag this time. Mike Tellier, as mentioned, looking for only his 2nd stage win on the season. And he'll try the top side against Matthew Rodriguez, and he will indeed, with the fresher tires, be able to pin him a lap down.
Hang on to it, Matty. He got there. Yeah, okay. All right.
Rodriguez is going to get the lucky dog here as Mike Tellier is going to claim stage win number 2. Caution flag's going to fly, and these drivers now get themselves set up for the third and final stage here tonight. You mentioned it, Mike Tellier. Points racing here tonight, picking up those very valuable stage points, a valuable playoff point as well if he's able to point his way into the postseason. Oscar Jensen, Evan Coleman, Jeremy Boucher, and Dylan Stipe will be the top 5. The other drivers that get stage points: Alex Link, Brandon King, Matthew Rodriguez, Tim Hendry, and Derek Schilling.
I never get over that, watching that pace truck just fly through everybody. Gets me every time. Oh my word! What an interesting stage. Interesting to see the alternatives in terms of tire strategy as well. Like I did not expect that from Mike Tellier. That is very curious. I mean, wow, what a move. I mean, he's definitely made it work.
It's going to be interesting to watch him make it work in this third and final stage, too, because, I mean, clearly at a deficit to the rest of the other drivers with the sets available to him on pit road from now till the conclusion. He's going to have to really stretch those tires further than we've seen any driver do here tonight in the first 2 stages.
Well, I was wondering, whether or not he actually takes tires at this start. I don't think he has.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, and I think that's the smart way to go, because this set of tires has only got 30 laps or something on them, right? So ultimately, this set of tires needs to push him deep into this stage. He needs to get... Oh, okay, so what have we got? We've got 120 laps to go. You want to try and split the difference. So I'm looking about... He's going to go like 45 laps on these set of tires? 40 to 45 laps before he can pit and grab freshies?
It would have to be, at least, and I'm not sure if he can make it that far on tires, but he's definitely got the fuel to make it now. I don't know.
Tell you what, let's
I
ask
don't
the man
have
himself.
I was going to say, I don't have the answers, but one guy does. Let's talk to our Stage 2 winner, Mike Tellier. Hey, Mike, it's Scott and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yes, I do.
All right, so, we got the insider information when you came down and took on those tires that your points racing here wanted to get those valuable stage points. You succeeded in doing so, but, we're up here trying to come up with a strategy for you. I'm sure you've got a strategy in place. How do you stretch these tires out now for this 120-lap third and final stage?
I have no idea. Do you have any pointers? What was your strategy? I don't have one.
You gotta split the tire life of this set in half. So I was saying like 45 laps into this run is about going to be your window, because then you get like 75 laps to the end on the next set of tires. What's the wear percentages like? I'm curious.
I didn't take tires this time, and my wear's at 73%.
He dead. He gonna have a blowout.
I don't know if I'm gonna make it on tires, guys. It's gonna be a fun little gamble. Like I said, I was here to try and get as many points as I could, because Justin Belmonte's out of the race. So it was just a random strategy that I thought I'd play and give you guys something to talk about.
I mean, I didn't even think about the fact, obviously that battle for the regular season championship up for grabs with the 12 having the early retirement. And you talked about the fact, too, that, when you were talking with Scott earlier, that, the worst you can finish is 12th place. So how hard were you digging there at the end of this stage to try and put as many cars a lap down as possible, so that way it maybe lessens the amount of spots that you lose if you end up having your pace back down a lot, which obviously it's going to have to?
Oh no, that's exactly it. I was hoping to get as many as I could without overcooking the tires. So that way, hopefully, when this all pans out, 120 laps from now, I might still be ahead of someone. I really don't think I'm going to be, but hopefully I can be.
Well, we certainly like storylines up here in the booth, and you've given us a juicy one here to follow during the course of this third and final stage. But congratulations on the stage win there, Mike, and best of luck here down this third and final stage.
Thanks, guys. Enjoy the race.
All right. So Mike Tellier will lead us back to green. Oscar Jensen will line up in second. Third, Evan Coleman. Dylan Stipe in fourth. Looks like he might have spent a little bit of extra time on pit road, as did Brandon King. So maybe a little bit of extra TLC to those machines. I don't know if they sustained damage during this stage or if they're fixing damage from something maybe back in stage 1. They'll line up in... Actually, correction now. Evan Coleman will move up to third with Dylan Stipe in fourth. Jeremy Boucher in 5th. Brandon King's going to drop back to 6th place now. Matthew Rodriguez, who got the lucky dog, he's going to be 7th, and Alex Link is currently scored in 8th position. Going to be 8 drivers of 12 drivers still running that will be on the lead lap when we get ready to go back green flag racing for what looks like officially 116 laps to go.
Yeah, I was just having a look at that. I mean, Alex Link, he's clearly just given himself a penalty at some point. What, unsafe pit entry, unsafe pit exit, speeding on pit, doesn't matter. It's an end-of-line penalty, so I don't know what he's done, but he's made the job all that much more difficult for himself once again, and just minimizing risk, I think, is going to be the case for a lot of these guys.
Well, we saw what the difference was between old and fresh tires in terms of lap times back during Stage 1 and Stage 2. Mike Taylor got himself a decent jump, but remember, he's out there on 30-lap older tires to the rest of the competition behind him, who for the time being seem content to battle for that runner-up spot. Jensen on the top, Coleman on the bottom. Now they start to reel the 97 back in.
Yeah, now they've got the momentum, so it'll be interesting to see which way Tellier tries to go. This is the difficulty, right? Where do you park the car? Because Mike Tellier, he hasn't got a whole lot of grip right now as Oscar Jensen tries to go around the outside. Mike Tellier's managed to get it to the low line, gets a little bit of contact from the rear. The 51 of Coleman goes down the inside. Oh, the whole field gets by him. That is actually not too bad of a job. That could have been a big old mess, and everyone got through there okay.
Worked out a lot better than I originally was thinking it was going to. A car is hard enough to save on fresh tires. He's out there slipping and sliding, trying to hang on with drivers breathing down his neck on 30-lap old tires. Great job there by Mike Tellier as he now drifts back to the 8th position. Jensen to the point. Boucher into 2nd. Coleman into 3rd. He's got Brandon King hounding him. And then you got the lap machine of Caleb Smith up here in that 25 car mixing it up with the race leaders.
Yeah, I was just having a look. Mike Tellier is actually sliding the rear end of that car because it looked like the car was getting quite tight towards the back end of that run, but now he's actually quite loose. I just saw, I think, Derek Schilling just tagged the wall in the exit of 3 and 4 as well. So you've got a fair few guys. So Jensen will be wanting his teammate in Boucher to kind of hold a few of these guys up here and just cause a little bit of havoc for them because Jensen needs to run away just a little bit. Caleb Smith is a lapped car, remember. He's a lapped car, and he's trying to get his lap back. I think he's at 2 laps down.
Currently at 1 lap down. I'll tell you what, I think he would love to see a caution because he just made a pass around 3 cars on the top side by himself. I think that car is still strong enough to win this race. The problem is he's not on the same lap as the leaders. Yeah,
Brendan King just had a huge moment as well. Got really, really loose coming off of 3 and 4. So again, more and more stories just to play themselves out. And I tell you what, Mike Tellier is now basically a straightaway behind the pack too, so it's not going to be very, very long, and Mike Tellier is going to be a lap down, then 2 laps down, then gone.
Look at this. This is not a pass for the lead. This is a pass to get back on the lead lap. Caleb Smith is going to go around the outside of Oscar Jensen, and he will complete that pass. So if a caution were to come out, if the caution were to come out now, he would not have to be at the tail end of the pack with a lucky dog. He would actually be able to restart wherever he ended up coming off of pit road, or if these drivers didn't pit, he'd be able to line up right with the race leaders, would have no EOL penalty. And this actually now moves Derek Schilling into the lucky dog position. So right now, if you're Caleb Smith, you're looking up at the skies and you're saying, please somebody bring out a yellow flag.
Oh, 73 car just blew up. So that was, I thought that might have been the caution that he was looking for, but that is one all expired Engerino from Jeremy Boucher. Guess what? That's the spot that Mike Tellier gets back.
It is indeed. No doubt about that. That's actually a couple of spots to pick up for Caleb Smith, Derek Schilling, Tim Henry, David Durand. A number of those guys going to move up another spot. This actually moves Tim Henry up into the top 10. That is a tough break there for Jeremy Boucher. Got involved in that incident with Braxton Deweese and Justin Belmonte, as all 3 of them were trying to come to pit road back in Stage 1. Had to deal with the front end damage, worked his way up to 2nd place, and right there, as you described, engine goes south on his machine. The 2-time winner was looking for win number 3 on the year. It will not happen here tonight at Charlotte.
Break for him. But then again, I mean, eyes forward for him. He's got to again extract absolutely every learning opportunity that he can take out of this race, apply that forward, and just move on with himself. You know, the champions will do that, and will do that phenomenally. I'm just keeping my eyes on Evan Coleman versus Brandon King versus Dylan Steyer. This is an amazing battle that's just sort of been brewing, and a lot of these guys haven't had the opportunity to really showcase their speed and their talent so far this season. I mean, we've obviously the stalwart Dylan Stipe, you know, just continually just turn out consistent finishes inside the top 10. I'm not going to say he's had any standout performances so far, but some of these other guys that are around him, like Evan Coleman had a really good showing, I believe, last time that we were at Charlotte. So he's another guy that all of a sudden has just found something else when he comes to this racetrack. Brandon King as well. I mean, another guy that hasn't had a standout season at all, but all of a sudden he's right there and he's fighting for a podium.
Yeah, right place, right time, avoiding the early carnage. He and Dylan Stipe going to battle for 3rd place. Eric Schilling continues to struggle. Last time by, he was riding the wall all the way from the exit of turn 4 down to the first left-hand crook on the D-shaped front straightaway. 1 lap down in that 9th position. Dylan Stipe actually, I think, might have brushed the wall in the back straightaway last lap as well. It was looking like he was going to try and make a really low pass on Evan Coleman for 2nd, but I think he was actually trying to gather his car back up after brushing the outside safer barrier. And Matthew Rodriguez now coming up here, making it a 3-man fight for 3rd place.
I tell you what, Caleb Smith's actually just dropped it back in behind Oscar Jensen, so he's no longer on that lead lap, and he's back in that free pass position. So there's a lot of shuffling, jostling, and bustling about. People just forcing little different bits and pieces. So guys that are running a heavy tire conservation strategy starting to come to the fore.
Now, obviously, we know the strategy that Mike Tellier is on, or lack thereof. he wasn't sure what his strategy was, but what about some of these other guys? I mean, we know that most of them, for the most part, are going to have 2 sets of tires available down there for them. I think maybe Matthew Rodriguez might only have 1 set left down on pit road after he played the tire strategy back in stage 1. So are we looking at these guys in this final 120 laps to just split it right down 40-40-40, or do some of these guys try and maybe stretch it with 2 60-lap runs?
Yeah, 2 60-lap runs I think is the best strategy, because that extra pit stop, you're not going to make it up in the middle periods. So, I mean, who knows?
Here comes Alex Link, 71, moving up to 4th place. Now putting the pressure on Dylan Stipe, about 2.5 car lengths behind him for the 3rd position. Link, a teammate to Oscar Jensen, your current race leader, and the only driver out of SRD, talking about Link, that has not found victory lane. Bouchy and Jensen have been to victory lane twice, and Brian Cybery has been to victory lane once.
Yeah, so look, I mean, multiple different winners there as well. So if Jensen can tag another win onto his tally and just put himself that little bit extra clear, he's really starting to put himself into being a playoff, not just, he's in the playoffs, right? But I'm actually talking a championship contender within the playoffs, because he keeps showing up and just winning a race. Every couple weeks, win a race, couple weeks, win a race, couple weeks, win a race. So look, and he's shown it on a couple different circuits now as well. So Oscar Jensen's certainly got pace. Keep your eyes on this guy.
No doubt about it. Oscar Jensen has led the most laps here tonight. Didn't win any of the stages, though, which he actually succeeded in doing back at Bristol Dirt. He won both the stages there, and then he followed it up at Kansas, winning both the stages there. So in the races that he has won so far, he has swept both the stages and gone on to win the race. Here tonight, if he's able to close the deal, it'll be the first time that he will pick up a checkered flag without winning a stage in either 1 or 2. Another driver officially out of the race now, Jeremy Bouchy. He did bring it down pit road. Looked like they were going to think about maybe repairing that car. It would have been about 45 minutes he would have had to have sat on pit road for an engine to be repaired. But apparently deciding to call it an early night. Bouchy will finish officially in the 12th position here this evening. Less than 100 laps to go here at Charlotte Motor Speedway as we head down the home stretch looking for the checkered flag here. at Charlotte in the Clutch Drop Cup Series. We're going to step aside for a quick commercial break. You're not going to miss a thing. We're going to go FRN side by side.
Welcome, race fans. This is Paul Page, the voice of IndyCars. And today we're excited to present another IndyCar event brought to you by the Dark Horse IndyCar Series. From the Unzers to Mears, Foyt, and Andretti, now it's Corley, Peterson, Davies, Gardner, and Team. You can expect high speeds, incredible wheel-to-wheel action, and intense drama that you can only get in an IndyCar. So sit back and enjoy your favorite drivers from all over the world take the track. Dark Horse IndyCar drivers, start your engine. Welcome, race fans. This is Paul Page, the voice of IndyCars. And today we're excited to present another IndyCar event brought to you by the Dark Horse IndyCar Series. From the Unzers to Mears, Foyt, and Andretti, now it's Corley, Peterson, Davies, Gardner, and Team. You can expect high speeds, incredible wheel-to-wheel action, and intense drama that you can only get in an IndyCar. So sit back and enjoy your favorite drivers from all over the world take the track. Dark Horse IndyCar drivers, start your engine. Welcome, race fans. This is Paul Page, the voice of IndyCars. And today we're excited to present another IndyCar event brought to you by the Dark Horse IndyCar Series. From the Unzers to Mears, Foyt, and Andretti, now it's Corley, Peterson, Davies, Gardner, and Team. You can expect high speeds, incredible wheel-to-wheel action, and intense drama that you can only get in an IndyCar. So sit back and enjoy your favorite drivers from all over the world take the track. Dark Horse IndyCar drivers, start your engine. Welcome, race fans. This is Paul Page, the voice of IndyCars. And today we're excited to present another IndyCar event brought to you by the Dark Horse IndyCar Series. From the Unzers to Mears, Foyt, and Andretti, now it's Corley, Peterson, Davies, Gardner, and Team. You can expect high speeds, incredible wheel-to-wheel action, and intense drama that you can only get in an IndyCar. So sit back and enjoy your favorite drivers from all over the world take the track. Dark Horse IndyCar drivers, start your engine.
90 laps to go here at Charlotte Motor Speedway for race number 14 of the Clutch Drop Cup Series. Oscar Jensen showing the way here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway as we were watching during that commercial break, the spirited battle for the 5th position between Matthew Rodriguez and Brandon King, trading the spot back and forth, back and forth. A little bit of distance between the two of them for the time being, though, as both of them trying to reel in Dylan Stipe for 4th.
Yeah, and I mean, something to consider in the back of your mind about that battle as well is that in terms of tyre strategy, Matthew Rodriguez is tyre compromised. So he is definitely, if there is a caution at any stage, Matthew Rodriguez will just be dead in the water. So he is hoping on a green flag run. So far, the race has developed that way, and there's an option for him here. The race was actually, in terms of pace, he was starting to make a few little inroads, so he was heading towards the 4. He was driving a little bit away from Brandon King, but it wasn't a huge margin. He's only 6 seconds off the race lead, so he'll be there and thereabouts. We just got to keep an eye on, what happens with the tyre strategy and what's going to develop out of all of that.
Yeah, talking about that tire strategy, we wondered if drivers here for this final stage would split this into 3 segments with 2 pit stops in between. If so, we're going to be seeing some drivers hit pit road in the next 10 laps or so, or if they'd want to split this entire final stage in half. If that's the case, they're about halfway through the run before having to come down to the attention of their pit crews. If you're just joining us, some early carnage back in stage 1, taking on a lot of our heavy hitters, a lot of our drivers that were up there inside of the top 5 and early portions of the top 10 as well. Justin Belmonte, your points leader, Alonso Chicano, Braxton DeWeese, Jacob Grant, and Keenan Massey all were out of the race by time the green and white checkered flag waved at the end of stage 1. And Jeremy Boucher, 2-time winner, had his engine expire on him here near the beginning of stage 3. Those are the drivers that are out of the race right now. 11 drivers continue on, and right now, with Mike Tellier going a lap down, now only 6 of them on the lead lap.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. It's been a very tough and grueling night. I mean, I feel, for Braxton DeWeese, I think in terms of what he's opted to do in pulling out of the race, I think he just got to a point where he just went, you know what? The car's, there's damage to the car. I've had a very long day. I think it's time to just call it, which is a fair enough call. I think for a few of the other guys, I think it's just pure frustration, and they just went, it was so much in it, especially Jacob Grant. Like, what a run he was having. How quick was he in the early phases, only to have that caution just cripple his car, and a quick trip to the garage immediately afterwards. So look, we've lost, and it's proof that a lot of these races, anything can still happen, so... And we're going to have another round of green flag pit stops coming up in the near future. This race may not necessarily be over yet.
Yeah, and in terms of those drivers that retired out of the race, Jacob Grant's the one that it has to probably hit the hardest, because Boucher, Belmonte, yes, Belmonte is battling for that overall championship in the regular season, but he, Boucher, Chicano, DeWeese, even Keenan Massey, they've all got wins. So as long as they make the number of required starts, keep themselves up high enough in the point standings, they know that they're going to be battling for the championship. Jacob Grant is trying to lock himself a playoff spot, whether it be through a win or through points, and obviously still with half the season to go in the regular season, he's still got time to be able to mount a comeback or try and find victory lane, but certainly not what he was looking forward to here tonight in this lengthy race. You saw Mike Tellier went a lap down. He then just got passed by Caleb Smith, so Smith continues to run in the free pass position should we get a caution. But Oscar Jensen, at this point in time, he's been the class of the field. The only chink we've seen in the armor of Oscar Jensen here tonight has been when he tried to get onto pit road back in stage 1. What are we thinking? Is that the only possibility these drivers have, is if he makes another mistake like that, of being able to wrestle this win away from the 46?
Either that or he goes out there and just burns up his tires for no apparent reason. Caleb Smith just come on the radio and said he's pitting. So he's on the two-stop strategy, the 3-stint strategy in this final sector of the race. So, look, a few things to play out just yet. Alex Link's trying to really leverage Mike Tellier as a drafting buddy. That's not a smart decision, Alex. Mike Tellier's tires are done. They are screaming, "Get me out of here!" Mike Tellier's... He's 20 laps away from a stop here. Actually, no, sorry, apologies. He's about 10 to 15 laps away from a stop, I think it was calculating. 5 to 10? 5 to 10?
Yeah. Yep.
Long day.
10 max. 10 max if he's able to make it.
I think he can. Oh my god, fuel.
Evan Coleman is in. No, I think Tellier's good on fuel because he took on fuel at the end of stage 2.
Yeah, but what was the longest fuel run that we saw?
About 45 laps is the longest run we've seen anybody make. I don't know if that necessarily was fuel that drew them to pit road for that, or if it was tires.
No, it would have had to have been fuel.
Well, here comes the race leader. So heading on to lap 40 of this run, it may not be a case of any of these drivers able to do a one-stop strategy. They might not have the fuel to be able to pull off something like that.
I didn't even consider that. That was silly. I should have considered that. Yeah, no, it's definitely a two-stop strategy to home, which puts Mike Tellier in a really awkward position because he's only got one set of tires to get home. Now, admittedly, I don't think that second stop, a lot of these guys are going to take tires. And do you want to know why? Because that second stop is going to be like a half tank at best. So that's a short stop. But then again, the tire burn off is so massive that it might actually be worth it. Because you're going to lose, what?
Well, I'm wondering, we saw it just exactly, back, case in point, when Matthew Rodriguez pulled away from everybody at the end of that first stage with the fresh tires. I mean, with the amount of time that you're talking about spending on pit road, is it worth putting on right sides, perhaps? Would that give you a little bit of a speed advantage?
No, because in my mind, you're going to have to take... Tellier's in now. So that's his maximum distance in terms of fuel. Alex Link's in just ahead of him. And Alex Link had the race lead. So Tellier will stay at one down. I'm pretty much going to confirm that Tellier's going to take tires here. And he's still got a splash to go.
This is interesting. I'd love to know what the difference was here. Only 1 lap difference between the 51's pit stop and the 46. Time spent on pit road and time spent in pit box between the two, there is only, I believe, 1/10 of a second difference. And Evan Coleman's got himself nearly a 3-second lead back to Oscar Jensen. Would have had to have been, the aggressiveness getting onto pit lane, perhaps, coming to the commitment line?
Well, the lap time difference, I mean, you have a look at the fall-off. What were the lap times? His peak for for Evan Coleman was 30.4 effectively. Fastest lap, 30.217. So he's just done his fastest laps of the race, like right now. So the lap time differential is about just under 2 seconds, and he was within 2 seconds of Evan Coleman, but he only come down 1 lap earlier than him. So that's enough. So the other 2 seconds would have to be pit lane, getting in, getting out. Unless Coleman short pit? No,
he didn't short pit. Bit of a mystery on that one. One thing we do know is that Mike Tellier will finish no worse than 10th. Tim Hendry came down pit road just moments ago and actually made the left-hand turn to the garage area, so he'll finish 11th. The bad news for Mike Tellier, though, trying to woe that thing up with how worn tires he had, he did not get down to pit road speed. Speeding penalty kept him in his pit stall for an extra 30 seconds, and so therefore he comes out 2 laps down to the current race leader, Evan Coleman.
Oh well. He's done his job, he gets a top 10 out of it, and he gets a whole bag of stage points. I think he's done a phenomenal job. I think, his strategy is a wild one. It's a risky one, but I think he's got an idea and he's going for it. So good to him.
He's done exactly what he said he was going to do. Try and hit the max points. Try and close in the gap between himself and Justin Belmonte for that overall points lead. Braxton DeWeese out of the race. Brian Sybry was not in the event here tonight, so 41 points separated Belmonte from Tellier coming into this evening's race, and with Belmonte finishing in the 13th position, and I believe Belmonte didn't get any stage points here tonight either. So big chunk of that 41-point gap going to be cut into by Mike Tellier. Who knows? Tellier could maybe be the overall points leader heading to Sonoma next week.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I'm pretty sure that's more than enough to actually pip him, so it wouldn't surprise me to see him go to the forefront. So would not surprise me in the slightest to see Mr. Tellier be points leader after this round.
And back down pit lane comes the 97 of Mike Tellier. Not certain what this is for. Regardless, he's going to fall another lap down as Coleman still maintaining about a 3-second gap back to Oscar Jensen. Dylan Stipe is now cycled into 3rd place. Alex Link right now in 4th. Matthew Rodriguez in 5th and Brandon King 6th. Those are the drivers on the lead lap as they currently run. 10 drivers running, 6 currently on the same lap as leader Evan Coleman. And we haven't really seen Evan Coleman make every start this season. He's been on a bit of a part-time schedule for CEM Motorsports, and we were kind of, at least I was kind of giving this win over to Oscar Jensen with just how strong he was early on in this race, and after getting back out to the front, nobody really being able to get into the same zip code. Now, Evan Coleman kind of giving us something to think about here.
Something else to consider is that Evan Coleman's found some pace somewhere, right? Well, the other thing is, you would think that if Evan Coleman found that pace somewhere, and it's by short coming down and creating an undercut sort of style of strategy, that his tires would be therefore a little bit slower, and Jensen would be starting to catch him. Jensen's not catching him at all. Evan Coleman's running away it's not a huge amount, but he is just putting tenths on him. So this might raise some red flags for Oscar Jensen winning this thing tonight. Could you imagine if Evan Coleman gets the required number of races and points his way in with this win tonight?
He could. Evan Coleman coming into tonight. I can quickly check here. He has made 5 starts on the season, 1 top 5 and 3 top 10s. His most recent start was back in late April at Talladega Superspeedway, where he finished in the 8th position.
Could you just imagine Evan Coleman in the championship playoff scenario?
And that, I think, would put a lot more pressure on guys like Tellier and Stipe and Link and Grant, who are all trying to make their way in possibly via points. As I said, we've got a lot of former winners this season. Only 2 drivers have been to victory lane, or actually make the correction, that's 3 drivers have been to victory lane multiple times. We've got a lot of single win drivers that up to this point have made the required starts to be in the playoffs. That playoff grid, those spots are getting fewer and fewer available for drivers to be able to make their way in through points.
And, we're getting to the point as well whereby if another few drivers get the wins, you're starting to think that points isn't even going to be an option. So, look, I mean, could we end up with the same sort of scenario that we're getting in real life as well, whereby 2 wins is the only time that you can really confirm your way into the playoffs?
Got 9 drivers so far this season that have formally taken checkered flags, and 16 drivers will be in the playoffs at the end of the regular season. So yeah, if Coleman wins, and he has enough required starts, then that's only 6 spots that are left open for drivers to possibly point their way in, and that's still with half the regular season left to go.
Yeah, I mean, there's who knows? Who knows? Mike Tellier and Dylan Stipe would be 2 of the guys that if anybody was left out there running that hadn't grabbed a win, they'd definitely be at the pointy end of guys that I'd be putting money on to take a win, to get their way into the playoffs. And then all of a sudden the point scenario just, that little bubble sort of dies down and kicks itself off. But Derek Schilling just caught the wall in front of Coleman.
Yeah, right in front of the leader. A little bit of a heart-stopping moment there. And I was just going to mention, Evan Coleman now having to deal with traffic with Schilling and David Durand, who are both actually battling for position. Durand now up to 8th, getting around the 69. I thought that the gap that Coleman had built over Jensen would start to whittle away with the 51 being in the dirty air, but it's actually, if not stayed stationary, it's actually continued to increase a little bit. Granted, Oscar Jensen's got his hands full back there running in the dirty air of the 25 of Caleb Smith, but just in terms of a wall in front of you, I thought Coleman had a little bit more traffic to deal with than Jensen would have.
I mean, Caleb Smith might end up deciding this race. He's been in amongst these lead cars for so long. He's showed enough pace to say that, yeah, he shouldn't necessarily move out of the way, because if anything happens, he's straight back on the lead lap here. So he's definitely got a right to be running around when these guys are running at their pace. So there's no sort of just pull out of the way lap car and let me on through. I mean, I'd hate to be sitting in Caleb Smith's actually car and just constantly getting the words from the spot of blue flags. Blue flag. Blue flag. Blue flag. We're getting the blue flag. So...
Ooh, shoot, did we have a car out of shape up there? Was that Derek Schilling in the wall again?
Probably. He's struggling. He's having a hard night, Derek Schilling.
He is. Daytona winner. Right now, still in the 9th position, but even right there, you saw that car wanting to step out on him on the crooked front straightaway. As Coleman now trying to get around David Durand, put him a 2nd lap down. Durand right now in the 8th position. Going to be 60 laps to go when Coleman comes around this next time. And these drivers here tonight, when this race concludes, they're going to be heading to the West Coast for the 2nd road course stop of the season at Sonoma. Going to be interesting to kind of see if the drivers that did well at Circuit of the Americas last week, if they're going to be able to replicate that at Sonoma, because in all honesty, if there's 2 tracks out there on the circuit that drivers are very familiar with the layout, Watkins Glen would probably be number 1, Sonoma would probably be number 2. So you got to wonder if people that didn't have a lot of experience with racing at Circuit of the Americas, if they're actually going to then jump to the forefront when we get to the high elevation winding road course in Napa Valley.
Yeah, I mean, it's another one of those circuits that throws up some very, very specific challenges. I mean, the elevation changes in some of the gradients are very akin to Bathurst, actually, so a track that I'm actually quite familiar with. So a few things to ask questions of. These cars, they definitely don't like it. I've definitely seen tempers flare over the years at Sonoma Raceway, and honestly, it's going to ask a lot more questions, I think, than Coda did, because Coda, whilst it definitely did ask some questions, it also is a very flowing kind of circuit. The car naturally just wants to go through some of those corners, and you've just got to sort of adapt to not being able to see a lot of the apexes. Sonoma's very different. The car is up, it's down. There's no weight over the wheels for a couple of the portions of the most tricky sort of acceleration and braking zones throughout the lap. So it requires a completely and utterly different skill set. So the drivers that we saw on top at Coda may not necessarily be the same ones at Sonoma, but I've got one driver there that I'm going to back in. I have no idea if you know him or not. Are we broadcasting next week?
I'm not sure.
If we're not broadcasting next week, I know who my money's on.
As far as I'm aware, I do not believe we are scheduled for that broadcast.
Oh, well, a certain Australian might be showing up on the grid again next week.
Oh, Marcus Ambrose?
Yeah, Marcus Ambrose. We managed to get him in.
The Tasmanian Devil makes his clutch drop debut. It's interesting, though, because I was actually looking... we talked about it at the top of the program, how Charlotte Motor Speedway was the venue for the championship to be decided last season. This season, it is the benchmark of the halfway point of the regular season, but just based in terms of how the races played out and the way that the running order looks like this year as opposed to last year, it looks eerily similar, because if you go back to last year's season finale, 12 drivers took the green flag, only 6 were running at the conclusion, 3 on the lead lap. 17 drivers took the green flag here tonight, only 10 are running, and only 6 of them on the lead lap. So it's almost eerily similar to the running order 2 seasons apart, even though Charlotte appeared in different areas of the schedule.
Yeah, interesting. It's really, really interesting to know. But I mean, we talked about it last season, whereby attendance, it's pretty regular to see attendance dwindle away at the back end of the season, particularly if you're not in the playoffs. And the reason for it is you no longer, whilst the playoffs do create an exciting prospect for the races that are out there and that are competing for the championship, and they do create an exciting race because every single car in that final race of the season that's in the race is in with a championship. Ultimately, what it does do is it does strip championship desires and attempts to race for final positions away from the other cars that are actually left out there on the circuit. So, it denies in some aspects. There's pros and cons to absolutely everything in life. You don't make a decision, and and have it be the best one for all cases. That's a very rare circumstance, and whilst a points-based championship certainly provides a year-long battle that is decided based on merit, and in a lot of cases, a year-long battle that comes down to the very final races, very often that's not the case. What it does provide is that there's generally a battle somewhere right throughout the pack for championship placings. Whether or not that be at the front is a different story, whereas the playoff guarantees a battle at the front but denies the battle further down.
Alex Link got a little out of shape there. He was actually running fastest car on the track for the last couple of laps, closing in on his teammate Oscar Jensen. And bear in mind, these drivers still have one more trip to make on to pit road, and I don't know. The odds of us having a caution here in the final 50 laps, they seem rather slim. We've got the drivers pretty much spread out all the way around this track as Matthew Rodriguez in the 1 is on pit lane. Don't know if this might be a little bit too early.
Yeah,
with 50 laps remaining.
I don't think he can get home from here. Is he parking it? Is he coming up to say hello to us in the booth and tell us what a horrid job we're doing?
I'm not sure, but this definitely is a longer pit stop than it should be. They aren't putting tires on the car. Yeah, it could be the case of that. I'm almost wondering. No, Matthew Rodriguez is not running the full schedule. This is the first time, I believe, that he has run this season. No, correction, it's the second time that he's run this season. Mike Tellier is out there trying to get points. If Matthew Rodriguez stays on pit road for a couple of laps, that's a position and a point that Mike Tellier picks up moving up to the 9th spot.
Yep. Yeah, and it's also good sportsmanship from Matt. Recognizes that, hey, he's been out here, he's had a good race. Alternatively, something could have happened in his house as well that he has to get up and move away and deal with. So, look, multiple different aspects there going on and whatnot. So, different things to consider. So, don't just necessarily sit down and say, hey, this is him just sort of giving a point back to Mike Tellier. We'll have to keep an eye on that until. So, Tellier has passed him now. So, it'll be interesting to see.
All right, so go back to the point I was going to make there before we saw that Rodriguez is on pit road. The field's really spread out, so the likelihood of a caution, it doesn't seem likely. However, we have to bear in mind that our first caution of the night back in stage 1 was drivers and their inability to get onto pit road. So the fact that these drivers are going to have to be coming to pit lane before the conclusion of this race, there is a chance that if somebody is not able to get onto pit road safely, they come back up towards the racing surface, we could have ourselves a late race yellow. So it's one of the things about endurance races. Obviously, we go into these portions where it goes into a little bit of a lull. They're out there logging laps, ticking away towards the checkered flag, but things in endurance races tend to start to pick up. Business starts to pick up in the closing stages, and sometimes it's a freak yellow or an unexpected caution that just stirs everything back up.
Who knows? I mean, and again, endurance races, endurance requires concentration, requires input, and it's so much more different in a NASCAR than it is to anything else. And the reason for that is you're constantly adjusting your braking points, you're constantly adjusting your turn-in points, the amount of throttle that you're using. Why? Because as the grip goes away, you have to make those. I'm listening. I get the feeling that Alex Link and Oscar Jensen are both clutching it into the corners.
Which is interesting because if they're doing that, they're only running 2 to 3 tenths.
No, never mind. Don't worry. Don't worry. They're not doing that. That's just me. Ignore me.
Scott's hearing things. It's late at night.
Yeah. No, they are. Okay. They aren't through 1 and 2, but they are through 3 and 4.
Which kind of does make sense in 1 and 2. 1 and 2, a lot of people would think that Charlotte's a cookie cutter track, the same in 1 and 2 as it is in 3 and 4. Actually, 1 and 2 has more of a dip downhill entry into the corner.
Snipes on the clutch into 1 and 2. This is a fuel race.
This is interesting. So what would they be doing here? Would this just be to make sure they don't have to take on nearly as much fuel when they eventually come to pit road, faster pit stop?
Yeah, that's what they're after here. So the reason they're using the clutch, right, shut the engine off, basically chill the revs out, and everyone knows about engine braking. There's a couple of cars that are actually on pit road at the same time that we're talking about this. So engine braking, slowing the car down, right, by utilizing the gearbox to effectively the motor doesn't want to run at its highest revolutions all the time. Evan Coleman's in. He's right on that 42 laps to home margin. 42, 43 laps to home margin. I don't know if he can make it without some fuel saving like these guys. That's what I think the race is. Do you want to know why Evan Coleman's pulling away from Oscar Jensen? It's because I think Evan Coleman has been running hot the last couple laps, and everybody else is fuel saving.
Well, Coleman has come to pit road. So he is making his final pit stop of the evening, which almost makes me wonder now if these guys and their fuel saving strategy, if that's going to work out to their benefit. We'll see. There's the 51, just completing his service. It's David Durand coming down pit road there. We saw Caleb Smith on pit road. He obviously was splitting this race into 340 lap stints. Coleman's going to come out one lap down. That was third place Dylan Stipe. Actually, that's your entire top three there. Stipe, yep. Jensen, and Link going around him.
But he's going to have the tires, remember?
He is.
So he's going to be right on these guys and right by them. And it's very, very important that he gets by them and starts disappearing up the road as quickly as possible as well. Because he wants to utilize this tire advantage. The margin between him and these guys before the stop was 5 seconds. His target, I think in the next couple of laps, he needs to get himself 10, 11, 12 seconds ahead.
Eric Schilling and Brandon King, teammates out of NSM, they've come to pit road, and looking back there from Dylan Stipe, that is the fresh tires of Evan Coleman, and he's going to fly by him.
Not even close, baby. Not even close, baby. All right, Evan, if you're going to win this race, this is where you're going to win it. You know, in this section of play right here, he's going to be very, very careful that he doesn't turn Oscar Jensen, doesn't get involved in the back end of these guys. And they've got an option here to hold him up as much as possible. He's looking for the grip. He's looking to try and get by. There's another car that I think has just come out of pit lane here, so there's that playing into everything as well.
That's the 89 of Brandon King, as Coleman's going to clear the two SRD cars, who, to your point, looked like
he's coming in.
Whoa! Not quite the slide he had back in stage one, but a slide nonetheless, as he's going to duck down onto pit road, turning the lead over to his teammate Alex Link, and going back there to Evan Coleman in the 51. I mean, they created a wall that he couldn't pass. A car on the top, a car on the bottom, and not enough room to shoot up the middle.
Okay, so Alex Link went one lap longer. He's coming to pit road this time, but I'm curious. Stipe is still going. Stipe is trying to save the most fuel. He wants this run to be as short as possible. What he's trying to do is he's really trying. He's right with both of these guys right now. Okay? So what he's trying to do is he's trying to build the tire advantage. The longer that he stays out, if he can get... Normally, when you're trying to get an overlap on terms of tires, a really, really good friend of mine, very, very good iRacer, very good NASCAR iRacer, said to me, what I normally do is the guys that I want to beat, I go 2 laps past when they come to pit road, and then I pit for freshies. I have the advantage on them for the remainder of the race, and it's enough of an advantage to get them back, but also, I don't yield too much time to them through pit lane.
Evan Coleman is going to inherit the race lead back as Alex Link comes off of pit road. Dylan Stipe just came to the pit lane. So Coleman is going to have, according to the current telemetry, almost 13 seconds back to Alex Link. And with 37 laps to go and having just come to pit lane 6 laps previous, he should have the fuel to be able to make it to the conclusion, and we know that at least for the time being, he's got the tires to be able to grow that gap.
I mean, who knows? Alex Link, look at this pit stop from Oscar Jensen, right? We saw him. He was actually in front of Alex Link, and he got the stop wrong. He got the way into pit road wrong. Again, Alex Link has the tire advantage over him, and he's now in front of him. So that's Oscar Jensen. Night done. There's nothing he can do.
And what's interesting about that, too, is according to what I'm seeing here, if you add up the amount of time on pit lane...
Hang on, Alex Link is clutching. Alex Link's back to clutching again. I'm sure I heard him grab the clutch going into 3 and 4.
Which is kind of interesting, because he would have pitted with 38 to go. He should be able to make it. Did they not get that thing full of fuel?
his pit stop was longer than Oscar Jensen's.
That's what I'm looking at. It was 2 seconds slower from commitment line to commitment line. His pit stop to the 46s.
But Dylan Stipe was even slower again. And he was on the clutch again through one of... He's definitely clutching. I think Dylan Stipe is the only one of this group that is good on fuel. They're losing time to Evan Coleman. They should have a massive tire advantage. They should have a... Sorry, they're not losing time. They're making time to Evan Coleman. But it's just such a small amount of time. They're not going to catch Evan. Race over.
I'm going to throw something out here. There was a race that we did back at Watkins Glen. And I was very shocked that we ended up seeing drivers coming down pit road after a long green flag run. They were coming down pit road about 5-6 laps earlier than what we had projected. The reason was that in the early stages of the race, they were running in a pack. They had drafts, so that played into just how far they could stretch it on fuel. You know, the field is so spread out right now. Could that be why some of these guys are having to clutch? Because what was usually about 40 laps they could make when they were all running together in a group now is down to maybe 31, 32 laps that they're able to make out running single cars?
I don't know. I wish I had an answer for you. I don't. I mean, they should be right. Based upon when Alex Link pitted, if he'd filled the tank, he should be fine. But he's the one that's clutching the most.
Wow. This... I'll tell you what.
Stipe's past Jensen. Stipe is past Jensen.
He's up to third, and he's actually closing in on Link. And I'll tell you, in the NASCAR Cup Series, many a time, before they had the stages come into play, Coke 600s were won on fuel strategy. We might be in for a fuel strategy race here in the Clutch Drop Cup Series at Charlotte. Dylan Stipe is the only one out there that is running in the low 30s. 31.5 for our race leader Coleman, 30.8 for Alex Link. Stipe ran a 30.1, and he's got thoughts about getting that second position away from Alex Link.
I think it'll be very, very long. He's getting quite tight now on initial corner entry, so he's lost a little bit of time to Alex Link, a little bit of momentum there. But if Link is not good on fuel, that's that position done as well. Holy cow! Wow, this race has come alive. I tell you what, all of a sudden they're making bucket loads of time back to Evan Coleman as well. Stipe just took 1.2 seconds of him out that last lap. So Stipe, this isn't even going to be close. I think Stipe will have him.
Yeah, if Link can't make it on fuel and he's clutching, there's no way that Evan Coleman can make it on fuel because he was on pit road 6 laps before Link was.
I don't know.
It's just sit back and watch these next 30 laps play out.
When did this happen? I mean, the best possible thing that can actually happen for Alex Link here is for Stipe to go by. Because that he has somebody else who's going to go and chase down Evan Coleman at the same time as having a draft buddy.
That's a good point. Be able to run in the wake of the 4 machine, maybe save a little bit of fuel that way, but Stipe unable to complete the pass for the second position. Right now, it's basically a 4-horse race. Coleman the leader, Link in second, Stipe in third, and Jensen in fourth. Caleb Smith, who's actually running up there in the same vicinity as your race leader, Evan Coleman, he is in the fifth position, 1 lap down.
Okay, Link is very loose.
Whoa!
Link has stopped clutching. So whether or not he was just minorly shy, and he just needed to save a couple of laps, and now he's in the window?
Look, even if he was a couple of laps short, you know, that still throws the big question mark over Evan Coleman. I mean, let's speculate that Alex Link was 2 laps short. Well, if he was 2 laps short, that would mean Evan Coleman would be anywhere from 7 to 8 laps short. Yeah, so, I mean, how in the world are you going to save that much all the time trying to maintain a gap between yourself and Dylan Stipe, which about 5-6 laps ago was 13 seconds, has now been cut down to 9.
Oh, I got to listen to Coleman. Oh my god, Coleman's on the clutch. He's going for it. Coleman is going, he's staying out. I can guarantee you, he's staying out. There's no way Dylan is going to run him down. So I would say wipe the lead and the race win away from Evan Coleman. I don't think he can do it from here. I think you've got to bank on Dylan Stipe I think Alex Link is a big question mark. It's going to be like 10 laps, and they're going to be on him because the margins that they're taking out of him is 0.7, 0.9 of a second to the 2 cars behind. So they're taking, let's just say 0.75, so 3/4 of a second out of him. They're going to be on him in 10 laps, less than 10 laps.
Dylan Stipe's going to have a couple of cars he'll have to get around before he would get up there to Evan Coleman. The lap machine of Mike Tellier as well as the lap machine of Caleb Smith lie between him and the race leader. Alex Link back on the attack of Dylan Stipe, though, for the second spot.
Oh my word. You wanted a motor race? It took a while to form up, but it's live out there now. This is actually really bad, and Link just got really loose again, and he tags Stipe!
They saved that somehow, and look at this. Oscar Jensen says, all right, you guys lose your momentum. I'll move up into second place. Thank you very much.
Oh, God. I mean, do you know who's sitting here laughing and watching this happen? Evan Coleman.
The more they battle for second, the more he's going to be able to at least somewhat manage the gap between himself and these three. Wow. Big block there by Jensen on Dylan Stipe down the back straightaway. Stipe going to jump up to the top, tries to get to the right rear quarter panel. He will. They'll be alongside each other at the start-finish line for second place. And for Dylan Stipe, last season, when Charlotte was the season finale, he finished in the second position in the race, second position in the championship. And you mentioned it. He's looking for what would be the first time in his career a regular season win in clutch drop. He didn't win till the playoffs in season 1 as he just got put into the wall going into 3.
Yeah, that's gonna hurt. That is a big bit of contact too. And Alex Link has to check up out of that. Like, that was a big hit. Coleman's gaining time on these guys now. With all the games that they're playing. Coleman gained a little bit of time back. Is that enough?
He's got 22 laps, 21 and a half laps to try and stretch that fuel tank back to the start-finish line, all the while trying to hold off that pack of 3, which right now are about 7.5 seconds off of his back bumper. Again, as mentioned, though, there is some traffic between himself and the second-place car. That's Mike Tellier in the 97, just up ahead, as well as the 25 of Caleb Smith. Now, Tellier was on pit road about 11 laps ago. Smith was on pit road about 10 laps ago, so their tires are relatively fresh.
Oh, Tellier's on.
Like Mike Tellier's he's not gonna put up much of a fight against the 46.
Oh, Alex Link!
He sent it and got Tellier in the bumper, and now Tellier's gonna get Link.
And that takes away the fuel question mark. And that, you know what? This was all caused by Oscar Jensen getting over-aggressive.
And what do we think? Do we think that was payback over there in turn 4? 97 and 71 stayed connected for a pretty long time there down to the front straightaway infield.
I just think that it's a lack of recognition of the tire strategy of Mike Tellier. Alex Link has had his eyes glued on Dylan Stipe for how long? And that Dylan Stipe and Oscar Jensen have been the only 2 guys he's actually racing. He's got no clue that Mike Tellier is coming. As soon as Tellier pops out and around Oscar Jensen, he's just got no idea that Jensen's that far off the pace.
And I'm going to just amend my statement. That camera angle shows that there wasn't any payback. Tellier was just wicked loose, slid up the track in front of Dylan Stipe and into Alex Link. And again, as well, need to remember that Mike Tellier was trying to stretch tires here in this third and final stage, having only one set available to him. So he might have actually been on pit road those 14 laps ago and not taken on any tires. So he might have been out there on much older tires than what I had originally said.
He had none left. He had no tires left. So there was no option to take tires.
Coleman is on pit road. Jensen is on pit road. Link is on pit road. But Dylan Stipe.
None of these guys will have tire sets left. Don't forget to factor that in. So this isn't about tires. This is about making sure that they have enough fuel. I'm sure we have green-white checkers, right? We definitely have a green-white checkers.
We do. Oof.
I'm wondering whether or not these guys are just suddenly going, hang on, let's make sure we got enough fuel for it. Alex Link is a different story. He's getting the damage. He's getting as much of those panels beaten back out and into clean shape as possible. So what the reason that he's on pit lane is a completely different reason. So, but keep your eyes on Dylan Stipe. I like I said before, I think Dylan Stipe was good this whole time. This caution, double tick, big double tick.
And don't look now, but he was pretty good. Even as a lap machine on the last restart to start stage 3, Caleb Smith gets the lucky dog under this caution. Granted, he, much like the other drivers around him, is going to have older tires. He does not have a set available to him here under this caution period, but I don't know. What do we think? Does this 25 have something maybe for the top 4?
I was just going to say, I'm pretty sure the 25 will need fuel. Just because his last pit on lap 215. So he was another one with a question mark over his fuel numbers. David Durand is another one with fuel question marks. Matt Rodriguez is 19 laps down. I think he's just pit by the look of that. So I think he's okay. Because he's 19 laps down, he's a mile back. Wellington.
So 5 drivers will be on the lead lap when we go back green. Mike Tellier, the amount of positions he can lose continues to decrease as Derek Schilling took his car back to the garage area about 4 laps ago. Looks like he will finish more than likely in the 10th position. I think Matthew Rodriguez might move up to 9th before the conclusion of this race. So worst that Mike Tellier will be able to finish tonight now will be the 8th position. And that's after racking up all of those points back in stages 1 and 2, winning stage number 2 and getting the valuable playoff point as well. Looks like Matthew Rodriguez will take the wave around. So it'll be Stipe, Coleman, Jensen, and Link, your first 2 rows. Caleb Smith, who did come down, get the fuel he needed to reach the end. Since he is the lucky dog, he would start shotgun behind lead lap and lap machines. The other thing I'm noticing as well, he came to pit road, I believe it was 4 laps before everybody else did. So his tires would be slightly more worn than the other top 4.
You know, the other thing that that really plays into Dylan Stipe's hands is that he was the last one to pit for the fresh tires.
Right. And again, too, Dylan Stipe, we saw him struggle early on in the first couple of stages, and I wondered if maybe we didn't see just exactly how strong that machine is. Maybe now we'll get an idea. The one thing I'm kind of wondering about is we saw when he and Jensen were battling for second place, he got put up into the wall over there in turn 3, got a little bit of damage on that right rear quarter panel. Is that going to affect him here on this final run potentially to the checkers, or is that car still good to go and still able to stay out in front, keep these guys at bay?
Oh my! The big thing for my liking is look where Oscar Jensen is. Oh, Dylan Stipe. I mean, the guy's a league admin. The guy is an absolute gentleman. He's really, like, if you ever want to socialize with somebody within Clutch Drop Cup, Dylan Stipe he's just an amazing dude to hang out with. Yeah. Oscar Jensen, Dylan Stipe. I mean, there's no way that you can't be annoyed with the way Jensen was driving around him. It was very, very aggressive. I don't think you can take anything personally out of it. I think that Oscar Jensen was just battling very, very hard for a place at the end of the race, a place that he couldn't afford to lose, so there's all of that. Stipe gets a phenomenal restart. Let's see how this goes.
You saw Coleman try to pinch him down, try and stop his momentum on the start here, but Stipe's going to clear him. Coleman in second, now looks to driver's left. Here comes Oscar Jensen in the 46. Dylan Stipe's looking for only his 3rd top 5 on the season, had back-to-back 3rd place finishes at Talladega and Kansas.
Well, I mean, again, I'm just going to keep coming back to, he's got the best tires here. Evan Coleman of this lead group has the cleanest car. So if that's going to play a factor, it's going to be Coleman, Jensen, Stipe, Link. in terms of who's got the best caster left under them with minimal contact to the wall. Jensen has been loose. Jensen has been struggling for grip coming to pit road, but I'm pretty sure, I don't think I've seen him make major contact. Maybe his splitter has contacted the ground a little bit. Link was loose there as well.
Yes, he was very loose. Is now Stipe actually going to jump up to the top side here again of Evan Coleman for the race lead going into 3 and 4. Can he get the run through the center of the corner? Doesn't look like he quite can. Almost got the wall for his troubles and then almost went off the nose of Jensen. David Duran's going through the grass off the nose of Alex Link, or off the back bumper, I should say, of the 71.
And hasn't Duran come back to us as well? I mean, all of a sudden he's showing a few turns of speed. That machine is definitely not slow in a straight line right now. Unless he saves some tires up, David Duran.
Woo! Link got the wall that time off of turn 2.
Yeah, Stipe. I think Stipe's struggling. What I honestly believe is that you're starting to see Stipe struggling. And this is just Evan Coleman with a cleaner car right now. He's just able to get those couple of extra mile an hour down the straightaway. But Jensen's quick. Jensen is very, very quick.
Oh, Coleman's going to slam the door. We saw just how aggressive Jensen was to hold off Stipe for what was then second place just before that caution. How aggressive is the 46 going to be to try and take his 3rd win of the season from Evan Coleman?
Well, again, what were we talking about? The fairy tale? Evan Coleman gets a win. Jamsy's foot in the door to try and pick himself up a championship. Couldn't that be the fairy tale ending? Dylan Stipe could jam his foot in the door, grab a fairy tale ending. David Duran, I think David's just going to hang off the back of these guys. I think he just needs to let them go. His race has been difficult. It's been a hard night for him, but he just needs to... He doesn't need to be here. He gains nothing by being here. He's only fighting Mike Tellier for position, and Tellier just doesn't have tires. And I'm pretty sure Dylan Stipe's done as well. I don't think he has the pace to match these guys anymore.
Yeah, right now David Duran's not really battling anybody. He's 1 lap behind Brandon King for 6th. He's 4 laps ahead of Mike Tellier, hanging on to that 7th spot. If anything, he might be trying to help be an aid in terms of draft for the 4 car. I'm not certain, but battle for the lead is on between a couple of Camrys. Jensen got to the outside of Evan Coleman, who, by the way, coming in tonight, Coleman had not led a lap this entire season. He's led a bunch of them here this season, but he's trying to hold off Jensen, who's trying to go coast to coast, pole to win.
Yeah, Jensen, I mean, you say pole to win, but it's not been as simple as that. Look at how strong Coleman has been throughout the latter stages of this evening. Picking the fuel strategy, picking the tire strategy just about perfectly. His tires right now are definitely on their last legs, though. He is struggling for grip, but so is Oscar Jensen. Oscar Jensen is wandering all over the track, Seth. This is amazing!
Of the drivers here in this battle for the lead, Jensen started the highest from the pole, and Evan Coleman started from 14th place out of 17 cars. These two now side by side to the line with less than 10 to go. Jensen looking for his 3rd win, Coleman looking for his 1st, and Dylan Stipe looking on saying, hey, if you guys want to wreck each other and let me slide on by for the win, I won't complain.
Hang on, is Dylan Stipe maybe under a fuel cloud as well? As Oscar Jensen finally gets it done? Oh, Stipe just got fronted by David Duran. There was contact there.
Kept it together, though. Again, not certain why Duran's getting up here and being aggressive. He's not on the same lap as the race leaders, but Jensen clears Coleman for the top spot. Coleman's not going away quietly, though. Going to try and arc it here from the top side of turn 1 to the low side of turn 2. Try and carry that momentum down the back straightaway.
I mean, nothing's decided. I mean, Coleman just came on the radio and said, man, I just got nothing for you left at the moment. But don't throw it away, Evan. Don't throw it away. There's still a mistake that could come here.
Going to be 6 laps to go this time by. As Oscar Jensen leads Evan Coleman. It's then about a second back to Dylan Stipe. Is another 1.5 back to Caleb Smith, who got around a struggling Alex Link. Good comeback run there for Caleb Smith. Spent almost the entirety of Stage 2 and maybe 3/4 of Stage 3, 1 lap down, got that free pass, and now looks like he's going to be finishing on the lead lap and inside the top 5 with Link right now, the last car on the lead lap, about 4 seconds behind the race leader in the 5th position.
Yeah, well done. Like, I mean, look at the race. Look at how spread out things have been tonight. Look at the action has been in terms of pit strategy. The action's been in terms of keeping your car alive. And ultimately, those skills don't get highlighted often enough. So I'm always down for a race like this, whereby it's a race of attrition. It's a race of keeping yourself alive and giving yourself a shot. Look at Evan Coleman. You said it. I think the story of the night is that a P14 and has led a lot of laps tonight. A lot of laps in this final and the most important stage of the night, so.
If you look at your entire top 6, obviously Oscar Jensen has not improved or lost any positions with where he's running since he started on the pole, but Coleman plus 12, Stipe plus 2, Smith plus 6, Link plus 8, and plus 1 for Brandon King. So those drivers have all gained spots during the course of these 257 laps, and there's still about 3.5 to go, 3 at the line. Oscar Jensen about 6 car lengths back to the 51 of Evan Coleman. And it is looking like Derek Schilling will actually finish 9th place here tonight. Matthew Rodriguez back on pit road, so he'll finish in 10th.
Just an update on why Matthew Rodriguez went down on pit road earlier in the evening. Food and toilet break. So
again,
it wasn't...
not running for points, just out here to have some fun, and so you get the advantage, the benefits of being able to do stuff like that.
He can come out and have fun. That's what it's all about, isn't it? Making sure that everyone's enjoying
He's got a
themselves.
stage win, so I mean,
yeah. We can make fun of him for it. You won a stage, you didn't end up in the wall, and you still finished 19 laps down.
Explain this, sir. He also was in the green as far as positions gained, though, finishing 10th here tonight after starting shotgun of the field in 17th. White flag will be displayed this time for Oscar Jensen. Coming into tonight, he and teammate Jeremy Bushi had 2 wins apiece behind the current total leader of 3 wins with Braxton DeWeese. Jensen, however, is going to be heading into Sonoma next week, tied with DeWeese for most wins on the season with 3. He took a dirt track win at Bristol for his first of the season, followed it up with a win at the 1.5 miles at Kansas. He'll add another 1.5 miles here tonight, and the longest race of the season. Started on pole, but as you mentioned, a long road to get back to the front. He'll come around and go coast to coast as Oscar Jensen's going to win at Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Yeah, great race from him. Evan Coleman will come home P2. Dylan Stipe, I mean, if you're in Dylan Stipe's shoes, you got to be disappointed with that. It's ultimately, I think, a few things out of your control, and you definitely won't be 100% happy with the way that the back end of that race went, but still a whole swag worth of points to take home.
Hey, you gotta wonder, I mean, what if this thing had gone green to the end? Would we still be saying Oscar Jensen's name, crossing the start-finish line, taking the checkered flag? Maybe not, because it was looking like it could have possibly been Dylan Stipe's race to win, just based on what everybody seemed to have in the tank and what type of fuel-saving mode they were in. But that caution definitely helping Oscar Jensen to close back up the gap. He was able to come down, get a little bit of extra fuel into the tank, and if you think about it, too, we talked about a lot of our big players that were up at the front of the field early in this race getting taken out in that Stage 1 caution. Jensen was one of the few that was able to dodge that bullet, and the reason was because he lost all that track position sliding onto pit road. So what would seem to be a curse back in Stage 1 may have very well been a blessing here when we got to Stage 3.
I wouldn't say it's a blessing. It's never a blessing to lose a whole bunch of track position like that. So
it's lucky then. We'll call it lucky.
That was not an easy race by any stretch of the imagination for Oscar Jensen. He's definitely struggled in terms of being his ability to get the car to pit road. Every single time there was a green flag stop, he was the one that made the worst stops. So.
He gets to burn it down for the 3rd time this season, as he is waiting to pick up that checkered flag from the flagman here on the front straightaway before heading to victory lane for the 3rd time this season. 2nd place is going to be Evan Coleman. Dylan Stipe brings it home in 3rd. Caleb Smith and Alex Link were the only drivers to finish on the lead lap inside of the top 5. Brandon King in 6th. David Durand in 7th. Mike Tellier 8th. Those were the cars that finished the race. Derek Schilling out of the race in 9th, Matthew Rodriguez on pit road in 10th, and then Tim Hendry, Jeremy Boucher, Justin Belmonte, Alonso Chicano, Braxton DeWeese, Grant, and Massey all out of the race. For Belmonte on down, they were out of the race before the conclusion of stage 1. Jeremy Boucher had an engine expire on him at the beginning of stage 3, and then Tim Hendry and Derek Schilling also retired out of the race around the midway point of the 3rd and final stage. But what do you say, Scott? What do we find out? Just how mental and physically taxing this track was for these drivers, as I believe we have 3rd place finisher Dylan Stipe on standby. Hey Dylan, it's Scott and Seth up here in the F1 booth. You got us?
Yeah, I got you guys.
Wow, long race for us up here in the booth. I can only imagine just how long it was for you guys down there in those race cars. But we had that late race yellow come out. It kind of gave everybody that was short on fuel an opportunity to come down and top off. But what if this thing had gone green to the end? Were we going to see this 4-car be able to make it to the start-finish line and take this checkered flag?
Oh yeah, I had a decent amount left. I had like a lap buffer. I was like, this is my race. I'm gonna win another Charlotte by playing the fuel game, and unfortunately, caution came out. I noticed Alex and Oscar had pitted like right before me. I think Oscar by 2 laps and Alex by 1. So I knew they were going to be really close on fuel, and I kind of noticed that they were not going as fast as they usually did. So once I had enough fuel, I just started to push it, started getting by them, and then fortunately a little bit of rubbing, getting a little T-boned through one of the corner, allowing Oscar to catch back up, and then getting kind of smushed against the wall, lost a little bit of RPMs. So I was a little down, and then that caution came out, and I was like, well, probably not going to win this.
Well, look, I mean, an interesting night. You ran in the mid to back of the pack in the first 2 stages, and then come on strong with the planning and the stage running. With the last time out at Charlotte, we saw you do pretty much a similar job, and it was for a championship. Did you take a lot of those learnings in and apply them again tonight?
Yeah, maybe not as much. I wasn't really found myself in a real huge fuel game as last time. And the track is a little bit different than it used to be. 3 and 4 is a tad tighter than it used to be with, I guess, through all the updates and everything. So that was a little bit of a slightly more of a learning curve to try to get through that corner as best I could. Didn't really have the best car tonight. We definitely had, like a top 5, top 10 car that can still easily run up there with the rest of the guys that had pretty good cars. Just wish the car would roll through the corners of 3 and 4 a little bit more than it was during the entire race with all the adjustments.
Dylan, we talked about the positioning of Charlotte last year being the season finale, the championship decided. This season, it's right plunk in the middle of the regular season. It's kind of the closeout of the first half of the regular season and start to get drivers focused towards the playoffs down the home stretch of the regular season. Obviously, a lot of drivers kind of utilize the middle race as a benchmark to kind of look back at the first half of the regular season, see what they have to do down the home stretch. And a 3rd place run here tonight, what does that do for the confidence level going down there, heading towards the playoffs, especially with the fact that, we've had a very consistent first half of the season, 3rd highest of the drivers that are yet to go to victory lane.
Yeah, it definitely shows. I mean, I've seen it, the first half of the season was definitely tough so far. I've noticed a lot of drivers that might not have been like finishing, really within the top 5 all the time, just, getting those extra bonus points through the stages. And then on average, usually finishing mid-pack or upper pack, are getting a lot of points. And my plan is just to try to push as hard as I can for the stage to get those bonus points. Try to utilize as little amount of tires as I can to try to have as much at the end and still go for that win instead of trying to point my way in.
Well, Dylan, congratulations on a podium run here tonight. Runner-up finish last season, 3rd place here tonight. So obviously you've got a very good car when it comes to playing it out in the long endurance races. And of course, we wish you luck down the second half of the regular season as well. Maybe, hopefully, see that 4-car in victory lane before the playoffs begin. We're giving the opportunity now. Turn the microphone over to you and let you do some thank you sponsors and shout outs.
Oh, thanks, guys. I just want to shout out Radius Racing. We were more so Waffle. Radius Racing was gracious enough to kind of take us into their folds, to collaborate on racing setups, and also be a part of some other leagues. So I just want to shout out Radius Racing with David, Justin, Mike, Cam Caldwell, Alonzo, and the rest of the team that may not be racing in this series. But I just want to shout out to them, the good bunch of guys.
That's Dylan Stipe. He'll bring it home third place here tonight at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Once again, congratulations on a good run there, Dylan.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
All right, how about we see if we can talk with our second place finisher. And we did have him, and we just lost him. We were going to talk with Evan Coleman, but looks like he has disconnected from the server. So actually, we're going to go down to Victory Lane now and talk with tonight's three-time winner, Oscar Jensen. Hey, Oscar, it's Scott and Seth up here in the booth. You got us?
I got. Yeah, what's up?
Man, what a strong run you had here tonight, but it wasn't easy. We saw you started the race out in front, a little bit of pit road miscues back in stage 1. You had to fight your way back up to the front in stage 2, fell back in the latter half of the top 5 at the middle of stage 3, but then that late race caution comes out. You work your way back up to the front there again. I mean, how difficult is it to be able to know you've got one of the strongest cars out there, but remain patient knowing it's one of the longer races of the season?
Yeah, that's keyword, one of the longest races. First off, I want to apologize to Dylan there on the backstretch. I haven't really looked at it yet. I know we did make contact, I just don't know how major it was. But yeah, the pit road miscues were after that stage 1 fright, definitely kept it easy on entrance, and I think that's where I was losing a bunch of my time, but it was very difficult.
Easy? Easy on entrance? You saw that last pit stop entry, didn't you? Seth, we were looking at the same pit stop entry. Easy on entry. Oh man, he's funny. He's funny, this Oscar Jensen guy.
I try to take it easy. And like you said, it's the longest race of the season, and as many times as I kept wanting to just go let it rip, I had to pace myself and tell myself not to just go up there and, it's about getting to the end, not winning a stage or not leading the most laps. So yeah.
A long, like Seth alluded to, a very, very long night tonight. And I mean, it's part and parcel of the Coke 600 week. It is probably the longest week of the year in terms of running time. As a driver, how do you find yourself managing fatigue? You mentioned it. You wanted to go for it, and it's a natural instinct to go for the pace, but you've got to hold yourself back. You've got to know when to push, and you've got to manage that fatigue all at the same time.
Yeah, just mentally prepare myself, and I have good teammates who, some of them who either blew up or wrecked out early. Just reminding whoever else was out there to just keep pace and helping with strategy. So it wasn't like I was all on my own. SRD has a great group of guys who are going to help out no matter what.
Oscar, we didn't see you quite get the performance you were looking for in the first road course race at Circuit of the Americas last week, but we're heading to Sonoma next week, and you'll be going into that race tied with Braxton DeWeese for most wins on the season with 3 apiece. Do we see the tiebreaker maybe at Sonoma, or is there another track further on down the schedule that you're looking at to maybe pick up win number 4?
We're going to just ignore Coda and Sonoma. I don't think I'm going to do that good. Last time I was there, I went up a hill by mistake, so we're not going to talk about Sonoma. Sonoma is just going to be don't wreck out. But definitely going to at least try and have a good day.
Well, Oscar, congratulations on remaining patient there until the end and being able to find a way to get that 46 back up to the front when it counted. Going coast to coast, a tough thing to do at a track as lengthy as Charlotte during the Coke 600 weekend, the 260 laps you guys had to turn here tonight. We're going to now give you the opportunity to do some thank you, sponsors, and shout-outs.
Thank y'all. Thank you to everyone who puts on Clutch Drop each and every week. Thanks SRD and everyone who helps out with either Setwise or in-game or in Simrise. Yeah.
Well, that's Oscar Jensen. He gets to celebrate for the third time this season. Second mile-and-a-half win, and his third win comes at a big one here tonight at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Congratulations, Oscar. Go and enjoy that victory. Get some rest. I'm sure you're exhausted.
Very, and thank you.
And we are actually going to be able to talk with our second place finisher, Evan Coleman. So let's do that right now. Hey, Evan, it's Scott and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yep.
All right, so we talked about coming into tonight. You'd only had 5 starts previous coming into this evening's race, had not led a lap in any of the 5. You got your first time out in front this season at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, and that car looked strong, but we were noticing that before that last caution came out, a lot of drivers were clutching, a lot of drivers seemed to be close on fuel. You had a pretty good advantage there, but did you have enough fuel to make it to the end if we did not have that late race yellow?
I was 4 laps short. I grabbed back 3 laps. So if my math was correct, I would have been like 2011 Dale Earnhardt Jr. like coming up, like I would have been out of fuel in the middle of 3 and 4.
Man, that is close. You had us both going, because we're both sitting here going, Evan's good. I mean, when he shows up, he's always there and thereabouts. But I think this is the highest that we'd ever seen you before tonight. So you had a couple of fans up here. Was it exciting to be able to run up there at the front, especially with guys like Oscar Jensen? You had Dylan Stipe and Alex Link both chasing you down. It would have been, you're trying to manage fuel and you're trying to manage those names coming at you all at the same time. It's a scary prospect.
Yeah. I mean, no disrespect to Alex Linked and Stipe. I mean, I was more worried about Jensen because I knew me and him after Grant, Bouchy, and Braxton kind of got, dealt a bad hand earlier on in the race. I mean, it was just me and him, in my opinion. I just noticed his long run pace was really good. My long run pace was really good. It was just a matter of who saved tires, and I didn't think tonight was going to be a fuel mileage race until after I came back from Durand. He was giving me draft, and I was like, oh, I'm short. So I was using him for like 7 laps. And then I was kind of salty. I was like, man, if this wasn't a fuel mileage race, I would have won this by a landslide. But it was fun, though. At the end of the day, I mean, going around left, making left turns is fun.
Now, obviously, as you mentioned, you kind of felt it was going to come down between you and the 46 for this victory, and we saw with that late race yellow coming out that it really was the two of you there battling it out for the win. A lot of times drivers will look back and they'll do hindsight and think about, if there was something they might have done differently. Was there anything you think you could have done to keep the 46 in your rearview mirror?
I mean, I lost the first race by being short, and then the second time I lost it was I was battling Stipe at that restart. I really needed to be side by side with him going into 1 at the very start. And I knew when he got a little bit of gap, I touched him a little bit, just enough to where he wouldn't go that far away. But I needed to be side by side with him so I could pull away from him. And then I think I would have had a little bit more time to defend. But I mean, it probably would have been the same result, just would have lasted a little bit longer.
Well, a great run for you nonetheless tonight, Evan. As mentioned, first laps that you led here this season in clutch drop, your second top 5, your 4th top 10 on the season. Hopefully we're going to see a lot more of you down the second half of the schedule, because obviously tonight showing that 51 definitely capable to find victory lane, and we could maybe see you snipe a playoff spot here down this home stretch as we draw closer to the postseason. But we're now going to give you the opportunity for some thank you sponsors and shout-outs.
I don't have any besides just Durand and Jacob Grant for helping me with the setup, and Durand giving me the draft down the back straightaways or the both straightaways, and actually Caleb Smith because he was giving me information about Jensen and all them. So those are the only real 3 I have to thank, really.
Well, a great run here tonight. Runner-up for Evan Coleman at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Congratulations on a great performance here tonight. It was nice to see you running up front, and hopefully we see a lot more of that in the weeks to come.
Yeah, that's the plan. Thank you guys for streaming the races and all that you guys do. It's really nice to go back and watch, the great broadcasting.
So Oscar Jensen, 3rd win on the season. He and Braxton DeWeese, they will be tied for most wins going into next week at Sonoma. And, we're talking to Oscar Jensen. He's saying, I didn't exactly have the best of luck last time I went to Sonoma. You have to remember, Braxton DeWeese also would like to be able to break that tie, pick up his 4th win of the season, and he won at Circuit of the Americas last week.
Look, it's but it's also like I said, a few times tonight. You can count it, but you can only count it so much because they are just such different tracks. Yeah, he's got the skills. Yes, he can win on a road course, and yes, that is a difficult mountain to climb in the current generation of cars. But we'll have to. There's bits and pieces that you can take out of Coda, but most of it you have to just wait for next week. I mean, really got to try and pick up the race in the first couple quarters of it, and then see where you can go from there. So,
well, for drivers next week at Sonoma, they will also be looking to find victory lane because the following week it will be All-Star Race weekend at the Texas Motor Speedway. So their last opportunity to win their way into the All-Star Race field. But a long one here tonight, Scott. Oscar Jensen gets it done from pole to win. Not an easy feat, but we saw a lot of our top contenders get taken out in the early stages. We saw this come down to fuel strategy towards the end. Those pesky cautions coming out maybe at inopportune times, but it set us up for a less than 10 to go restart. And boy, kind of all ticking all the boxes of what Charlotte Motor Speedway is pretty much known for with these lengthy races.
oh yeah, 100%. I mean, it had everything. It had the early stages, it had the fuel run, it had the tire conservation, it had playing the early strategy, the mid strategy, the adjustment, the late strategy. All of it was right there. The cautions, the trying to get the car to pit road action, everything. It was a good race. There's a lot to take away from there, and there's still a few questions that I think need to be answered by specific people. And I'm gonna call Jacob Grant out, and I'm calling him out because I want to see him do better than that. I think he is capable of winning his way into the playoff spots, and I think tonight he had a very, very good opportunity. He got extremely unlucky, and I think his attitude a little bit needs to change. That, hey, yeah, I did get unlucky tonight. What can we take out of it? I was quick, I was fast, I ran up front for an extended period of time. Another driver I'm looking for a little bit more out of is Alex Link. I think Alex Link has made contact with a few people late in the races now that he's been racing, and I don't want to see that from him. I think he needs to adjust. I think I was talking to him last week, and he's going to take this criticism very honestly and very directly, and I like that about him. He takes it, right? He takes it and he adjusts based on it. And I'm not calling him out because I don't like him as a driver. I'm just saying things that I think he needs to hear. I think he races people a little bit too close and a little bit too aggressive, and he's blurred that line of what he should and shouldn't be doing. And I think there's a few adjustments that he's going to make. Next week is basically an off week, if you will. In terms of that, it's a good opportunity for him to just sort of take a break. If he doesn't show up and race next week at Sonoma, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think he will show up and race, however. But take a week off, reset, readjust, make some adjustments to your driving style, come out again. And I honestly, he's another one of those drivers that I've got picked to make a win and get himself into the playoff spots because he is capable of that. It's just he just needs to stop finding himself in the wars as often as he does.
And, as mentioned, here at Charlotte, it's right in the middle of the regular season, so now it's an opportunity.
There's adjustments now, yeah.
Exactly. Make the adjustments now. Take reflection on what's happened in the first half of the season. Figure out, what can I do differently? What can I do maybe a little bit better? Do I want to adjust my strategy in some way, shape, or form down the home stretch and, see if it works? It's an opportunity of or a chance for assessment for these drivers and then to be able to try and build up those assessments to try and see if they can get themselves a playoff position. Still plenty of schedule left to go as well. So it's not like these drivers are in must-win situations yet. There's still about 14, 15 races left before we even begin the playoffs later on in the year. But next... Oh, go ahead.
I mean, yeah, just one more thing on that note. Again, it's not a personal comment directed at them. It's just like these are improvement points for these guys. I don't necessarily think either of them. I don't hate either of them, but it's nothing like that. These aren't direct personal attacks. These are just saying, hey, I think these guys have got a few more notches that they need to add to their bow, or a few more arrows they need to put in their quiver, and these are probably the arrows that they need to target and go after. If you take away every single time that Jacob Grant and Alex Link have been involved in contact out on track, I think they would have already found their way into victory lane.
Yeah, could very well have. I agree with you there. Well, we'll see if these drivers will be able to make said adjustments here, as we'll be heading to Sonoma next week. We're at the All-Star race the following week, and then we go to a couple of interesting tracks. We go to Nashville Super Speedway, then the tricky triangle of Pocono Raceway to finish out the month of June. Next time you'll see us, we're going to be broadcasting tomorrow night, as we're going to be bringing you coverage of the TNR Pro Trucks. And we're going to be looking forward to that. First time we're going to be calling a race for that series. Then the following night, Tuesday, we're going to be coming to you from Daytona International Speedway for the G-Force 87 Cup Series. But a long one here tonight, a good race at Charlotte. Oscar Jensen is your winner. Scott, appreciate you joining me in the booth.
That's what I'm here for, boys, So, yeah, good night, really good racing. Both races were phenomenal, so a really, really good night, and I'll see you when I see you.
Thanks to everyone that tuned in this evening. Hope you guys enjoyed our coverage of race number 14 of the Clutch Drop Cup Series here under the lights at Charlotte Motor Speedway. For Scott Rankin, I'm Seth Cole. We'll see you guys tomorrow night as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.